A small figure in a cow-themed outfit watches as a blue moving truck is parked outside a house. Rattle. A hand reaches for a bottle of tequila, hidden next to a box of strawberry smoke candy. Screech. The blue truck, loaded with boxes, arrives in a quiet residential neighborhood. Hidden amongst boxes labeled church stuff and cat stuff, someone decides to take a break from being nagged. The camera focuses on the green cap of a tequila bottle, a strong, hard liquor. Crunch. A succubus named Lily with orange hair chugs tequila with a gulp, gulp. A devil named Adam snatches the bottle, chiding Lily, the alcoholic, and asking how she snuck it past him. Lily flashes a fanged grin, taunting Adam by asking if he really wants to know why she isn't believed. Reap. A hand with a box cutter slices open a box, hoping to find dirty, degenerate stuff inside. Lily looks thrilled, exclaiming her excitement about finally moving out on her own for the first time. A cute, round creature coos sweetly, contrasted sharply by a dark sketch of a weathered, serious man. The so-called dirty stuff is revealed to be a box of cat supplies, as a voice calls out, "Hey Skelly." Holding cat dictionaries, a surprised Lily asks Skelly if he's getting a cat. The skeletal hands of Skelly hold a candy cigarette as he thinks about adopting a cat to combat loneliness. A skeleton named Skelly confirms he's getting a cat from the human world, telling Lily not to let Adam know. Adam and Skelly both berate a third person, asking what they've done, while the third person asks if their constipation is better now. Lily furiously demands to know who touched her tequila, but Adam tries to reason with a crying Skelly that it is too late. Skelly calmly states he already ordered it, and to Adam's horror, reveals it will be delivered this evening. Adam tearfully prays to the demon god to save his alcoholic and lazy friends, lamenting they weren't always like this. Munch. Step. Lily wanders an alley, snacking and wondering if she's found Skelly's apartment. Crouching down, Lily notes the poor drainage, just as a white snake slithers into view. Drop. Startled by the snake, Lily drops her entire bag of lobster crackers. Lily sprints forward as Adam asks Skelly how he paid for the place, who replies with his saved-up allowance. Crack Lily tackles Skelly in a bone-crushing hug, startling Adam. Adam panics, yelling that Skelly has a weak spine, while Lily realizes the cheap rent had a catch. Completely oblivious, Skelly looks around with a candy cigarette in his mouth and asks, "A snake?" Scratch. Lily cheerfully reassures Skelly that a snake is no threat since he's all bones, which he finds surprisingly comforting. Adam suggests Lily is just drunk and hallucinating, pointing out she spilled her crackers everywhere. Nag. Adam begins lecturing, telling Lily to stop drinking and scolding Skelly for eating smoke candy. Erg. Skelly blows a puff of smoke in Adam's face, retorting that he doesn't have a throat to worry about, much to Lily's amusement. Snicker. Crunch. Done with the argument, Skelly munches on his candy and declares it's time to finish unpacking. A defeated, orange-haired figure with bat wings lies crumpled on the floor. Skelly and Adam are shown in an unsettling state as the scene transitions to the devildom. Skelly stands alone, puffing pink smoke from his candy cigarette. A stark title card announces the setting, the devildom. The laws of the devildom are explained. Demons are forbidden from traveling to other realms without permission. The narration clarifies that permitted animals, like the sleeping cat in the box, are distributed through official agencies. A demon happily cuddles her super lazy cat, joking that it prefers the box, showing how demons acquire human world pets. A book reveals the demon's startling ignorance, showing a bizarre drawing of a man and warning that no one knows what humans truly look like. Skelly sits in his new apartment, frustrated that the book's human section is censored again, with only illustrations. Sigh. Skelly fumes over buying a new edition of the book only to be scammed, cursing the author. Snap. As Skelly smokes, his devildom university ID is shown, revealing he's a biology major. Chomp. Skelly complains his new apartment is tiny, barely the size of the bathroom in his old house. Pull. Rustle. He explains he left in a rush without much money, deciding the small space is fine since he's alone. Bump. A sound from the delivery box gets Skelly's attention as he wonders if his new pet is awake. Raise. Reaching toward the box, Skelly gently tells its occupant he's about to open it. Skelly looks down at the box labeled, "The cat is sleeping," and thinks to himself, a cat. His skeletal fingers hover over the box, his focus entirely on the cat inside. With wide, hopeful eyes, Skelly lifts the lid, his thoughts repeating, a cat. Instead of a kitten, a sleeping human baby lies peacefully on a cushion inside the box. Press. As his skeletal finger pokes the baby's soft cheek, Skelly notes its short, prickly hair. His green eyes wide with shock, Skelly can only think, "Holy cow!" Pat. A skeletal hand gently pats the baby's head as Skelly trails off. What, a tap tap? In a brief flashback, Skelly taps on his phone while watching an Animal Kingdom documentary. Beep! Skelly's attempt to call the pet agency fails, as an automated voice states the number is no longer in service. Crack, creak. His skeletal hand clenches in fury as he realizes he's been scammed. NGH. With glowing red eyes, Skelly seethes, vowing to throw the scammers in prison himself. Turn. He turns his attention back to the delivery box labeled cat and addressed to him. Yawn. Step. The baby, having climbed out of the box, takes a wobbly step forward. Sparkle. The baby looks up with wide, innocent eyes, looking utterly adorable. Sparkle. Surrounded by a halo of pink roses, a blushing Skelly is completely smitten by the sight. The sweet moment shatters as a horrified Skelly claps a hand to his skull in stark, black and white dread. The baby's eyes are revealed to have strange, dark symbols within them, unnerving Skelly. Coo. Outside the window, several plump, purple birds feast on the lobster crackers Lily dropped earlier. Coo. The strange birds continue to mill about by the window as the baby watches them. Flap. A monstrous version of the bird soars through the night sky as the terrified baby lets out a piercing scream. Grab. Lift. Skelly's hands quickly scoop up the wailing infant. Holding the trembling baby, Skelly hushes it, worried about his neighbors and lamenting that he's been scammed. Sniffle. The baby quiets down, while Skelly sweats with anxiety from the ordeal. Skelly apologizes sarcastically to the baby, scoffing that a little thing like it wouldn't understand his situation. He gently places the baby back in its box, asking it to wait inside for a moment. Needing something sweet and considering calling his friends, Skelly reaches for his candy but pauses with a sudden realization. He stares down at the box of strawberry smoke candy in his hands. Stare. From inside the box, the baby watches him with teary eyes. On the phone for help, Skelly worries the smoke candy would be bad for the baby's throat and closes the pack. Toss. He throws the box of candy cigarettes onto his desk, a sweet aroma filling the air. Skelly looks at a picture of the fluffy white cat he was actually supposed to receive. Suck. In the box, the baby sucks its thumb, oblivious to the photo of the real cat below. Now calmer, Skelly kneels beside the box, trying to identify the creature using a large book. He dismisses images of a frightening cat and moray eels, knowing they aren't a match. Finding a picture of a gorilla, he notes a slight resemblance but dismisses it, though he finds it oddly handsome. Frustrated, Skelly can't find any animal in his book that matches the baby's appearance. Suck. The baby continues to suck its thumb as Skelly stares, wondering what this strange life form could possibly be. A sudden insight strikes Skelly as he points forward, having figured something out. He looks at the book's page for human, noting it's the only animal without a photo, just an illustration. Concluding the baby's attributes are similar to the page's description, Skelly cautiously approaches the box. Kneeling before the box, he recalls the law, if you come across a human in the devildom. A dark, menacing shadow of Skelly looms over the sleeping baby, his skeletal hand poised. The view focuses on the yellow flower on the baby's bonnet as it sleeps inside the box. Skelly continues to kneel before the box, contemplating the dire implications of finding a human. A close-up shows the baby sleeping peacefully, unaware of the demon's dilemma. The ominous silhouette of Skelly once again looms over the box, his intentions unclear. The camera focuses again on the baby's bonnet, resting on the edge of the cardboard box. Reach. Skelly's skeletal fingers move toward the baby's eyes, his own skull reflected in them. In a TV show, a narrator discusses a featherless bird named Charlie as Skelly holds the baby and watches. The TV highlight focuses on the sad-looking bird, and Skelly comments that he feels bad just looking at him. A host asks Professor Go about the problems faced by mutant animals like Charlie, and the professor agrees to take a look. The professor speculates on whether Charlie has a chance with a nearby female bird. Unsure of the outcome, the professor suggests they watch, as Charlie nervously shuffles on his branch. A green-skinned host with a nose ring cheerfully concludes the segment, declaring this the harsh reality of the animal kingdom. The purple-skinned TV host jokes that since Charlie is featherless, he'll likely be alone forever. As the host declares that only death awaits a mutant in the wild, a horrified Skelly clutches the baby tightly. The TV show, Animal Kingdom, concludes as Skelly, still holding the baby, stares blankly at the screen. The scene focuses on the empty cardboard box, its cushion now unoccupied. Skelly reads from a book, learning that while a cat lives for 15 years, a human can live for 80 to 100 years. Lifting the baby, Skelly resigns himself to caring for it, assuming it will only be for 15 years. Skelly admits to the baby his ignorance of human world animals, musing that for a demon, 15 years will pass quickly. Holding the chubby baby, Skelly thinks he should have considered things more carefully, noting it looks like it will eat a lot. Whine! The baby reaches out with a small noise, and a confused Skelly asks if it wants to be held. Skelly flatly refuses, declaring pets aren't allowed on the bed and asking if the baby thinks it's on the same level as a demon. He explains that he comes from a family that takes manners very seriously. Therefore, he concludes, his pet must also be well behaved as he reaches for the light switch. Huff, puff. Having given up his bed, Skelly now lies uncomfortably on the floor next to the box. A horrifying flash shows a screaming, tortured demon being held down by monstrous snake-like creatures. Bang! Hiss! An enraged neighbor with green snake hair pounds on the wall, yelling at her new neighbor to be quiet and not ruin her interview, as Skelly apologizes. Bang! The baby cries out as Skelly panics, blaming himself for provoking the neighbor who has been on edge all afternoon. Exhausted and stressed, Skelly wonders how he's supposed to calm the crying baby. Rise. Skelly angrily stands, refusing to hold the wailing baby and demanding to know why his cat is yowling at him. Pointing at the pouting infant, Skelly asserts his dominance, yelling that it's an animal and he's a demon. Utterly defeated, Skelly announces he's going to lie down, met by the baby's wide, unnerving stare. He shouts, "No!" reasoning that if he holds the baby once, it will expect to be held forever. Collapsed on the floor, Skelly curses his situation, lamenting the scam, his weird new neighbor, and his dire circumstances. He continues to despair, thinking about how he has very little money. He finishes his thought, recalling that he ran away from home, and now the cat he received is hairless. Clack. The scene shifts to the quiet, dark exterior of the apartment building at night. Bang, bang! The loud pounding continues from the neighbor's apartment as a voice apologizes. Clack. Chirp. As a new day begins, Skelly's skeletal fingers rest on his desk near his laptop. Exhausted Skelly lies in bed, watching over the baby sleeping peacefully in its box next to him. Lying stiffly beside the box, Skelly complains that he didn't get a wink of sleep. The camera pans out, showing Skelly's full, lanky frame stretched out on the bed. Cursing his fate, he again watches the sleeping baby, overwhelmed by his predicament. He repeats his complaint of having gotten no sleep, stuck beside the baby's box. An ornate black cross symbol with unfamiliar script marks a transition to a new location. A group of demons holding Bibles eagerly approach a man in a cleric's collar, calling him Reverend and reminding him of his promise to teach them. "Oh dear," says the large purple demon as the group looks toward the Reverend with anticipation. The Reverend, a demon with a long tail and a dark marked bag, apologizes and says he has to leave, having forgotten their Bible study. His congregation expresses understanding, as he explains he must help another demon who is desperately in need. The Reverend flashes a charming smile, promising to keep next Saturday open for them. He warmly encourages them to take a step closer to the demon god together, asking for their agreement. Ding! Outside the church, two demons swoon over the Reverend's handsomeness, one joking about getting closer to him after being baptized. Clatter. Back at his apartment, Skelly opens a drawer and pulls out a box of excellent cat food. Pour. He opens the box and pours the kibble into a red bowl for his new pet. Push. Skelly slides the bowl of food towards the baby, who watches with curiosity. The baby looks down at the full bowl of cat food, seemingly unimpressed. With a candy cigarette in his mouth, Skelly watches the baby with a faint, amused smile. RRR. His phone rings, and a curious Skelly gets up to answer it. Step. Beep. Skelly answers brusquely, asking why he's being called on a Saturday and reaffirming that he's not joining a church. On the other end of the line, the Reverend explains he's bringing groceries since Skelly just moved in, calling it community service. Rustle. The Reverend asks how the new cat is, but Skelly's sigh and admission of a problem immediately worries him. Throw. Scatter. As the baby overturns the food bowl, Skelly tiredly tells the Reverend to come and see the problem for himself. The Reverend thinks about the bratty cat that throws its food, looking annoyed while on the phone. Gulp. Outside, the Reverend spots an orange-haired woman chugging from a bottle and recognizes her as Lily. Kaya. Lily excitedly holds up a dark mart box, exclaiming that she knew it. Deb. Lily throws her arm around the Reverend, accusing him of coming to steal her food and finding it odd he'd walk so far. Lily cheerfully explains to the Reverend she was kicked out and has nowhere to go, as he scolds her for being drunk and tells her to quit. Clack. Skelly opens the door to find Lily clinging to the Reverend, surprised they arrive together. In front of his two other demon friends, Skelly bashfully prepares to show them his new pet, as one of them thinks he never learns. Keg. OWW. His friend's hands pull at his jacket, as the Reverend asks if this is the cat. Ta-da! Skelly reveals the drooling baby, explaining it's the cat he received in the mail yesterday. Gah! Whack, whack. Lily repeatedly hits the Reverend on the head in shock as he yelps in pain. As the Reverend peels an apple, he thinks about how much the baby's reveal startled them. While peeling, the Reverend warns Skelly that a sick, balding cat will have expensive vet bills and questions if he can afford it. Skelly discusses his food budget with his friends, noting he'll have to eat more now, as the Reverend remarks his mana must be low. Poke. The Reverend explains the baby won't eat cat food, as Skelly suggests it needs milk, and the Reverend offers some he brought. A close-up shows the details of a devildom milk carton, complete with nutrition facts and ingredients. Rip. Pull. Skelly's skeletal hands tear open the carton of milk. Trickle. Skelly pours the white milk from the carton into a red bowl. Push. Skelly slides the bowl of milk to the baby on the floor, while Lily encourages it to drink. The baby sits on the floor, looking down into the red bowl, filled with milk. Splash. The milk suddenly flies everywhere, splashing onto a shocked Skelly, who cries out, "Ergo!" Lily laughingly scolds the bad kitty, while Skelly points, angry that it put its paw in the milk. Skelly complains that his clothes are all wet, showing his milk-soaked sleeve. After Skelly laments having no towels, the Reverend offers him a housewarming gift, a cloth reading, "The Demon God Loves You." The Reverend explains the cloth was a church gift, as Skelly unenthusiastically uses it to wipe the baby, wishing he had real towels. Crunch. As the group eats apples, the Reverend explains he's on a diet, disappointing Lily, who wanted meat. Skelly tries to teach the baby to drink from the bowl, but it faceplants into the milk instead. Splash. Da-done. Lily, Skelly, and the Reverend are all shown with expressions of utter shock. Nom nom. The baby laps the milk directly off the floor as Lily exclaims, "It must have been really hungry." The three friends are shown again in the same panel of shared, stunned silence. The Reverend lets out a horrified scream, his face pale with shock. Cough. The baby suddenly chokes on the milk as the Reverend panics that it can't breathe. The Reverend scolds the noseless Skelly for his carelessness while holding the sputtering baby. Skelly apologizes as Lily laughs. Wah! As the baby cries, the snake-haired neighbor yells at them to be quiet, and Skelly apologizes again. A close-up shows the baby's open mouth, followed by a shot of it drooling. Skelly despairs over having to constantly feed the drooling baby, lamenting that it's too much work. Lily asks about the yelling neighbor, and Skelly explains it's the person next door who's been upset since he moved in. Lily vows to make the noise-sensitive neighbor less sensitive, prompting the Reverend and Skelly to try and stop her. Skelly grabs the Reverend's leg, trying to hold him back, as he insists on letting Lily handle the neighbor for him. Glug, glug. As Lily chugs a bottle to raise her blood alcohol, the Reverend demands to know her plan and tells her to put it down. TSK. The Reverend accuses Lily of planning to use her fists, but she just clicks her tongue at him. The Reverend forbids violence, and Lily agrees to just talk, but warns him not to meddle in her business. With a determined grin, Lily finishes her threat, pointing as she declares he'll regret getting involved in her business. Ding dong! As the doorbell rings repeatedly, Lily announces her arrival at the neighbor's door. A snakehead asks what they're doing with such evil intent, declaring the church bans this kind of activity. The neighbor's other snakes debate among themselves, one questioning the rule, while another insists they're just using words. A dark mass of hissing snakes fills the view, their fangs and glowing eyes creating a menacing image. Burst. The snake-haired neighbor throws open his door, confronting a smug Lily and a terrified Reverend. The annoyed, snake-haired neighbor stands in his doorway wearing a yellow shirt. With the Reverend looking on in terror, a confident Lily smirks at the neighbor. Back in the apartment, Skelly sits alone, wondering what is taking his friend so long. Holding the sniffling baby, Skelly looks up as a voice from the doorway asks if they are okay. Skelly wonders why the baby is crying, noticing its unusual cries as it babbles. Ga, da, lift. Cradling the upset infant, Skelly studies its scrunched, pouting face with concern. In a stark, black and white scene, the enraged, snake-haired neighbor demands to know who did it. With menacing, glowing eyes, the neighbor angrily asks which one of them rang his doorbell. The Reverend points at a smirking Lily, declaring that she looks like the obvious culprit. Hiss. As two green snakes hiss, Lily recalls seeing a stray snake yesterday and realizes it was the neighbor's hair, while the Reverend internally panics, urging her to say something. The Reverend ponders what scares his sister, remembering there's only one thing she's truly afraid of. In a flashback, the Reverend recalls their parents bringing home a case of 1-year-old snake liquor from a client. The flashback shows a horrified young Lily looking into the jar as the Reverend explains the snake inside was still alive. The Reverend finishes his story, explaining his sister was bitten on the nose and has feared snakes ever since. A look of dawning dread crosses the Reverend's face as he processes the situation. The snake-haired neighbor points accusingly at the smiling Lily, asking the Reverend if she is the culprit. The Reverend stares in shock, realizing that his sister has turned to stone. Horrified that Lily was petrified, with a confident grin on her face, the Reverend screams at her to say something. Clack. The Reverend watches as Skelly, holding the baby, calmly walks back into his apartment. Step, grab, squeeze. The snake-haired neighbor seizes the Reverend's arm, stopping him from leaving as the Reverend yelps in pain. At a vet's office, a cat in a doctor's coat named Dr. Mako reassures them that the baby is fine and just threw up from drinking milk too fast. Dr. Mako gives Skelly a prescription and instructions to burp the baby, then asks if he wanted other tests done, which Skelly confirms. Done. Dr. Mako announces he has found an animal that looks similar, while a note on his screen displays a comical request for churros. Done. Dr. Mako explains he found a similar-looking animal, while a note on the screen shows a funny negotiation over daily churros. The vet shows an image of a very obese cat, explaining its weird sitting posture is due to its weight, as Skelly asks why it sits that way. Skelly asks if the obese cat looks exactly like his, and the doctor slyly compliments his photo editing skills. The vet confirms the baby's baldness is a genetic disorder, and when Skelly asks if there is a cure, bluntly tells him there isn't one. Pat. Dr. Mako pats the baby's head, joking that if there were a cure for baldness, no one would be bald, and Skelly sheepishly agrees. Rummage. As the vet searches for something, he plans to outline a specific lifestyle for the little mutant, noting its weaker skin will need special attention. Flick. The doctor opens a book on skin, telling Skelly to come for an exam every 2 weeks and that he won't be charged due to the special circumstances. Skelly's hand holds a vet bill totaling 180,001 for various examinations and supplies. Holding the baby and the steep bill, Skelly stares into space with huge, empty eyes. Walking down the street, Skelly thinks about the staggering cost of the vet visit. His despairing thought finishes over a view of the city. It was his entire monthly food budget. The Reverend smiles faintly while on a phone call. Back at the apartment, the Reverend tries calling someone, annoyed they aren't picking up while he recovers, and Lily sleeps nearby. A cute flashback shows the Reverend giving the snake-haired neighbor a towel as a gift, which the neighbor accepts despite not sharing his religion. The Reverend thinks it's time for a briefing, only to be startled by Skelly opening the door. Clack. Turn. The Reverend confronts Skelly for not answering his phone, but Skelly excitedly announces he's thought of a name for the cat. Plop. Skelly presents the baby and suggests the name Leech, but the Reverend is horrified, asking if he's serious and expressing his dislike. Skelly explains the baby started throwing up, and he was alarmed, as the Reverend silently notes skeletons can't vomit. Rummage. He explains he panicked and spent his entire food budget on the vet, leaving him nearly broke, as the Reverend eyes the bottle in his hand. Skelly shows the feeding bottle the vet gave him for free. Pop. He opens it and goes to the fridge for milk. Clack. Trickle. Drip. As Skelly fills the bottle with milk, He mutters in annoyance after spilling some on the counter. The Reverend angrily tells Skelly not to use the church's towel to wipe the floor. CSK, Skelly freezes. Halt. Clatter. Deciding to use something else, Skelly pulls a frilly bonnet from a box, prompting the Reverend to ask what it is. The Reverend identifies the bonnet as a hat, and Skelly explains the baby was wearing it upon arrival, much to the Reverend's surprise. Plop. The Reverend speculates that another demon must have been caring for the baby before Skelly received it. The baby's bonnet is shown up close, and the word Nabby appears beside it, identified as its name. Skelly officially decides to name the baby Nabby, noting that the name means butterfly. He explains he chose the name because the baby arrived with a butterfly plush on its head. A close-up highlights the yellow butterfly-shaped decoration on the baby's bonnet. The Reverend asks about a drawing Skelly is holding, which shows a picture of the baby with an angry expression. RRRRING. A phone rings insistently as a green-skinned woman in a sharp suit reviews a document in her office. Clack. The woman picks up the receiver of a black rotary phone and answers with a simple, "Hello." The green-skinned woman greets Mago on the phone, explaining she's encountered a very strange mutant at her clinic. She continues her description, stating that while it looked like a pig in the photo, it behaves and cries much more like a cat. She concludes that the creature's cat-like behavior is likely why its owner made the same mistake. A flashback shows a human officer and a dog-headed officer standing by a patrol car looking at the creature in a blue box. In a cute flashback, the Reverend scolds Skelly to wash the church towel, but Skelly points out they already did at his house. Suck, suck. On the other end of the line, Dr. Mako listens intently while eating a churro. The scene transitions to a grand, dark room with moonlight filtering through a large, arched window. An ornate mantel clock and a bowl of flowers rest on a table, marking the quiet passage of time. A wider view reveals the opulent, shadowy bedroom, complete with a canopy bed and sofa. In a series of stark panels, a different skeleton with glowing red eyes lies in bed, looking toward the window. As a sliver of light hits his face, the skeleton observes the arriving sunlight. Meanwhile, in another bed, Skelly sleeps soundly, habitually holding the tail of a sleeping Reverend Adam. Whack! Suddenly, the Reverend is violently kicked out of bed and onto the floor by a sleeping Lily. Ring. The startled Reverend leaps up, clutching the sheets in pain and yelling, "What was that for?" Looking disgusted, Skelly asks why the Reverend was breathing on him, prompting the Reverend to angrily shout he was just sleeping. As the household wakes in chaos, the Reverend complains about his stomach, curses Skelly, and realizes with dismay that they all crashed at Skelly Place. Suck, suck! Having dealt with the morning drama, Skelly feeds Nabby a bottle and declares that breakfast is taken care of. Skelly worries about feeding everyone for lunch since he has to volunteer, but Lily casually suggests just feeding them twice a day. A flashback to the vet's office shows Dr. Mako firmly instructing Skelly that Nabby must be fed 6 times a day, even at night, assuring him he'll wake up. Plop. Back in the present, the Reverend holds up the Demon God Loves You towel, warning Skelly that the vet said otherwise. The Reverend explains Nabby can't go to the nursing home, as the elderly demons are frail and could be harmed by an allergic reaction to even a tiny bit of hair. Lily offers to take care of Nabby for the day, as thanks for letting her stay over, much to Skelly's surprise. Relieved, Skelly gratefully agrees to leave Nabby in Lily's care while he's away. Gulp, gulp! Cradling Nabby, a confident Lily assures him she's got it covered while eating a snack. As they leave, Skelly voices his distrust of Lily, and the Reverend dryly agrees as they see her carelessly tossing her phone and the baby bottle in the air. The scene shifts to a church service, where the Reverend's sermon describes 3 sages following a bright star. The sermon continues, explaining that beneath the star, the sages discovered a stranger covered in rags. As the tale unfolds, Saint Lucifer, the first to spot the figure, is said to have exclaimed, "Look!" Raised at the pulpit, Reverend Adam passionately preaches that this is the face that will bring everyone happiness and celebration. In the pews, Skelly wonders if the Reverend is talking about himself, but a thought bubble clarifies he means the demon god, concluding a chapter of The True Gospel. The Reverend internally admits to himself that he wasn't listening to his own sermon as he concludes the morning service. The Reverend gives a warm, gentle smile, his hands clasped together gratefully. The diverse congregation, including a Reverend Adam fan club, chants Amen in unison, united under the demon god. As they walk, Skelly comments on the energetic youngsters in the front, but his elderly goblin companion tells him he's mistaken. The goblin, identified as Mr. Sundal, explains the demons in the front are all elderly with designated seats, much to Skelly's surprise. Mr. Sundal, now seen in a wheelchair, abruptly asks Skelly who he is, making Skelly sigh internally. Thinking quickly, Skelly offers to tell a story, while Mr. Sundal internally groans, knowing it's another one of his rambling war stories. Mr. Sundal mentally complains about the repetitive stories, as Skelly, facepalming, realizes he's already told this one before. Easy. Mr. Sundal tries to get his attention by claiming a bomb is in his jacket, but Skelly just thinks, I guess not. Lift. Skelly checks his phone, realizing he missed a text because it was on mute, while Mr. Sundal panics, yelling about the bomb. Mr. Sundal furiously insists he knows what a smartphone is, but Skelly silently retorts that he didn't even know what a phone was a second ago. Swipe. Looking weary, Skelly swipes his phone, while Mr. Sundal proudly boasts of his long life. A text message from Potopia Vet appears on Skelly's phone, asking him to return to the clinic for something they forgot to give him. Lily arrives at her apartment building, holding Nabi and cheerfully calling out, I'm home, Yunbi. An apartment door cracks open, and a friendly golden retriever named Yunbi peeks out. Woof! A wagging Yunbi greets Lily, who excitedly introduces Nabi as a new little playmate. A voice from inside asks if Lily brought someone home, and she confirms it's a friend's cat, denying it's another demon as Yunbi sniffs the baby curiously. The unseen person invites her into the living room, jokingly remarking that her cat looks like a boiled egg. Lick. As Lily lies on the floor, Yunbi the golden retriever affectionately licks her face while she murmurs contentedly. Lying on the floor, Lily suddenly notices a salty smell wafting over her. Sit. Sitting up, Lily spots a yellow puddle on the floor and laughingly wonders if it's tequila. Trickle. Denying it could be her, Lily insists she would never spill alcohol, her denial hanging in the air. Flap, flap. She turns in horror to see the culprit, Nabi, who has just finished peeing on the floor. The scene shifts to an apartment building, as someone desperately shouts the name Louis to Dunn. An elderly goblin woman with white, poofy hair and glasses announces, I'm back. Step. Inside, Skelly folds towels and politely greets Miss Sune, who curtly confirms she's fine. Reverend Adam explains to Miss Sune that he's late because he was buying snacks for the old man in the hospital bed. Rustle. The Reverend reveals a bag of apples and mentions that her mother also likes them, suggesting she should join them. Miss Sune asks where her mother is, and the old man says she's in her hometown, prompting Skelly and the Reverend to whisper about his dementia and how he might not know she has passed away. Whisper, whisper. As they leave, the Reverend and Skelly cheerfully say their goodbyes to Miss Sune. Miss Sune suggests giving apples to someone named Gyokdal, but the old man, Sundal, reminds her that he moved away a long time ago. In a black and white scene, Lily is on the phone, telling someone she's busy and explaining the cat peed on itself, so she needs to borrow some doll clothes for it. Pause. The boy on the other end of the line, Louis, turns in surprise, questioning if the creature is really the same size as his dolls. Clack. Back in color, Lily laughs and confirms it is, reminding him of her earlier comment that Nabi looks like a boiled egg. Lily excitedly shows Nabi to Louis via her phone, asking if it looks like his dolls. Louis bluntly calls Nabi ugly, detailing its features, and adds that someone else made hurtful remarks that Nabi, thankfully, didn't understand. Lily defends Nabi, insisting it's cute, but from behind his door, Louis scoffs at the idea. Louis angrily tells Lily to stop bothering him, and as she pleads for clothes, he shouts in frustration, Toss. Louis dismisses a drawing. Lily shows him as lame and tells her to take whatever she wants from the clothes he is throwing away, so he can prepare for a contest. Turn. An ornate and beautifully crafted blue and white doll dress is displayed on a mannequin. Holding Nabi and a doll-sized coffin, Lily confirms he's throwing everything away, and he tells her to pick something. With a bright smile, Lily gratefully accepts, vowing to put the items to good use. The scene shifts to the exterior of the Potopia Veterinary Clinic. Inside the clinic, Skelly explains he came alone, but Dr. McCall is aghast, saying Nabi is too young to be left at home. Skelly explains that he has to volunteer every weekend, which surprises the cat vet. Dr. McCall remarks that Skelly doesn't seem like the volunteering type, prompting Skelly to internally grumble that he's heard cat beasts can be rude. Rummage. Wondering if he isn't offended simply because the vet is a cat, Skelly explains he volunteers at a nursing home run by the Church of the Demon God, much to the vet's surprise and Skelly's growing irritation. The vet presents a pink bottle of powerful moisturizer, explaining it's normally for worms, which Skelly notes are popular pets. Dr. Mako offers the worm moisturizer at a special discount price of 20,000 won. Flick. The vet explains Nabi's skin will crack without daily bathing and an application of the moisturizer, and Skelly glumly realizes the rest of his food budget is gone. Rummage. As Dr. Mako begins to speak about your cat, Skelly interrupts to proudly announce he's named it Nabi. Perk. Dr. Mako's ears twitch with interest upon hearing the name. Flick. The vet smiles, repeating the name Nabi as he holds his pen. Back on the phone, the green-skinned woman, Mago, remarks how fateful it is that her butterfly research is ending just as another butterfly Nabi has appeared. Mago declares that discovering a new species is a scholar's greatest honor, and she's already excited to have her name associated with it. On the other end, Dr. McCole calls it a beautiful dream, before adding that Nabi's owner volunteers at the church's nursing home. Dr. McCole suggests it would be a good idea for her to visit the nursing home and befriend the owner by, quote, coincidence. Clack. Mago asks about the owner's species, and the vet reveals it's a rare skeleton demon before hanging up without giving a name. Scratch. Mago thoughtfully takes notes in her pad. Rip. With a look of decision, she tears the page from her notepad. Poke. She taps the note with her pencil, her plan solidifying. Raise a diagram of Nabi's anatomy appears, with notes detailing its features. A sinister grin spreads across Mago's face. Her expression hardens with focused, menacing determination. The scene cuts to Skelly, who wears a similarly smug and determined expression. Outside, Skelly observes that Nabi's owner is calling for it, but it won't respond. He admits to Lily he only came up with the name yesterday, joking it would be a genius if it already knew its name. Wag. Skelly reassures a smiling Lily that Nabi just needs time to learn its name, handing her a bag and Nabi's bottle. He reveals the bag contains extra clothes for Nabi, and Lily gasps in delight at the perfect gift. Skelly presents the bag to Lily, calling the contents a classic and modern dress, while Lily clarifies they're doll clothes from Louis, perfectly sized for Nabi. Tilt. Lily excitedly asks where Adam is, hoping to have dinner together, and Skelly admits he was wondering the same thing. Reverend Adam asks Skelly where he's headed, and Skelly explains he's going to the vet before getting Nabi, deflecting Adam's question about going somewhere together. Skelly relays that Adam was just curious and had to speak with the butler, prompting Lily to admire Adam's religious dedication. As they part ways outside an apartment building, they exchange goodbyes for the day. Ding! A phone receives a text from the butler, asking if Adam is free to talk. Reach. A pale hand with sharp black claws reaches for the ringing phone. On the phone, a voice confirms today's schedule was sent, and Reverend Adam replies that he saw it. A blue-skinned demon with long white hair and a crystal earring smiles slyly. Holding a golden vintage phone, the blue-skinned butler requests a photo. From another room, his master asks Adam for a photo of them, lamenting how long it's been, and the butler dutifully agrees. Adam hesitates, thinking they'll notice a photo, but the master insists on discretion. The butler explains the master's distress over his aging and his only child's recent incident, privately finding it dramatic. The butler continues telling Adam this is the first time the young master has been so stubborn and expressing gratitude for Adam's updates. Adam humbly replies that he was only doing what was right, as he couldn't let the family worry. The butler agrees, relaying that his master also speaks highly of Adam for his righteousness. Continuing to speak with Adam, the butler praises him for being honest and upright, unlike other youths. The butler confidently predicts Adam will become a great demon, and as Adam's expression turns serious, he asks, "Am I right?" Regarding the photo, the butler agrees to try, earning a thankful response from Adam. Clack. The butler hangs up the ornate golden phone with finality. The butler muses that Adam is a naive demon, just as his master said, recalling how easily Skelly was swayed by those around him. An unseen master interjects, "Enough," stating that the boy's nature is precisely what makes him useful to them. The butler concurs, affirming that for now, Adam is their only source of information. From a dark room illuminated by a stained glass window, the master's voice repeats, "Yes, for now." The butler frets about young Master Skelly's well-being, worried he's now eating low-quality food, especially candy, after once being sustained by his mana. In a chibi-style flashback, the butler scolds a younger Skelly for eating candy, warning about rotten teeth, but Skelly just exhales heart-shaped smoke happily. The butler laments that he can no longer take care of his young master. The scene shifts to Skelly browsing a convenience store, eyeing devildom milk and Mashin's spicy instant noodles. At the counter, Skelly, with Nabby tucked in his jacket, asks the clerk for a bag. Rustle. As he takes the bag, Skelly thinks about getting rid of the lingering barbecue smell and pictures a crying purple baby demon. He decides the perfect solution is the new apple-flavored smoke candy. Swoosh! An ad for the candy stick promotes its easy-to-eat form and fruity flavor. Another ad for the traditional brand shows a purple demon enjoying the candy with a warning for demons with throats to consume with caution. Looking slightly embarrassed, Skelly asks for a pack of the candy, while Nabby makes a curious sound. Skelly waits with his arms crossed, Nabby still nestled securely inside his jacket. Crunch. Outside, Skelly enjoys the candy stick as Nabby babbles, and he asks if the baby wants a bite. He pulls the candy away, explaining that cats can't eat chocolate, which makes Nabby wail loudly as Skelly calls it a glutton for making him give up his candy. In a dark room, a voice announces that the cape is finished. Bear. The shadowy figure of Louis prepares to drape the newly finished cape over the dress on his mannequin. Clack. Louis's voice is heard asking about the blue dress, and Lily cheerfully replies that Skelly really liked it as Nabby is shown wearing it. A tiny, furious Louis wails from the apartment parking lot. "What have you done?" Louis confronts Lily, scolding her for taking the pretty dress, but she defends herself, saying she forgot and wouldn't give her friend an ugly one anyway. The scene repeats, showing Louis wailing in despair from the parking lot under a moonlit sky. Back at home, Skelly carefully washes the now ruined blue dress in a basin, using shampoo for his sensitive scalp. Gloop. After cleaning the dress, Skelly begins washing Nabby, gently pouring shampoo on its head. Squeeze. Skelly lathers a yellow duck sponge, preparing to scrub a patient Nabby. Skelly meticulously rinses the small blue dress in the basin. His skeletal hand holds a blue rinse cup, decorated with little teddy bears. Tap. Trickle. He gently pours water over Nabby's head to rinse away the suds. Grab. Realizing his rinsing method might be too harsh, Skelly picks up the foamy duck sponge to wash Nabby more gently. There. Nabby is now clean and snugly wrapped in a towel with a frilly collar. Scrub. To avoid getting soap in its eyes, Skelly carefully scrubs Nabby's face with the duck sponge. Skelly's skeletal hands continue to scrub Nabby's back with a foamy yellow sponge. Skelly diligently washes a happy, sudsy Nabby in a small pink basin. From his apartment, Skelly reflects on how strange a cat Nabby is. The scene transitions to a large apartment complex under the bright light of a full moon. A new character, a girl with bright blue hair and small bat-like wings, appears with a shocked expression. The blue-haired girl explains to Lily that the dress was for a doll festival contest as Louis knocks on his door. Lily pleads for Louis to come out and talk. In a flashback, a distraught Louis wishes Lily had left the dress, while in the present, Lily defends her choice, arguing she wouldn't give her friend an ugly gift. Adam asks Lily to do him a favor and bring the dress back to Louis. With steadfast loyalty, Lily refuses to do something so cheap to her friend. The blue-haired girl successfully bribes a starstruck Lily by offering a box of tequila. Lily flashes a cheerful thumbs up, having clearly accepted the offer. Suck. Back at home, Nabby sucks its thumb while snugly wrapped in a towel that reads, "The demon loves you." Skelly is glad he learned how to wrap Nabby from watching Dr. McCoy, telling the baby not to wander around while wet. Lift. Holding the swaddled Nabby, Skelly decides it's time for him to wash up. Skelly begins to pull his long-sleeve shirt over his head. Toss. He casually tosses the shirt aside and walks off screen. Creak. As Skelly opens the bathroom door, Nabby remains bundled on the floor. Toss. Skelly places the still swaddled Nabby on the bed, where it continues to suck its thumb. In the bathroom, Skelly feels a nagging sense that he has forgotten something. He casually dismisses the feeling, confident the memory will return to him later. Creak. Skelly turns the knob, and the shower begins to run with a loud schwa. Water begins to seep from under the bathroom door, pooling around a phone left on the counter. Ring. The phone buzzes with an incoming call from Lily. Outside, a concerned Lily wonders why no one is answering, guessing they must be taking a shower. A narrator confirms Lily is correct as Skelly scrubs himself in the shower, complaining about being covered in cat drool. Lily smiles, deciding they'll be done with their shower by the time she arrives. Looking up at the night sky, she decides to head over immediately. Drip. Still dripping wet, Skelly answers his ringing phone from the shower. A skeletal hand reaches out from the steamy bathroom. Rustle. Skelly rustles what seems to be a towel, confused by the situation. Stepping out of the bathroom, Skelly spots the Potopia bag by the door and wonders why no one put it away. Standing in a daze, Skelly holds a strange object and realizes with a jolt that this isn't his dad's house. He notices the bag contains the super smooth worm moisturizer from the vet. With a flash of memory, Skelly remembers the moisturizer. Clack. Skelly panics, realizing he forgot the vet's instruction to apply the moisturizer right after Nabi's bath. Gloop. Hoping it's not too late, Skelly squeezes a large amount of the pink lotion onto his hand. Wah! Nabi flails and struggles as Skelly tries to apply the moisturizer. Lift. Skelly lifts the wiggling, lotion-covered Nabi into the air. Crack. A sharp crack echoes as Skelly's pelvis separates from the strain, his face contorting in agony. A pristine bowl of fruit, an apple, bananas, and grapes, is shown. Snug. The fruit is humorously depicted nestled inside a pelvic bone, mimicking a baby. A diagram explains Skelly is experiencing his first ever separation of the symphysis pubis as he and Nabi both scream in pain. Hearing the scream, Lily's face freezes in shock. Outside the building, Lily hears the pained cries and realizes with horror that it sounds like a bone breaking. Dash. Lily sprints and jumps over a railing, desperately calling Skelly's name. Grab. With a look of fierce determination, Lily grabs the apartment doorknob. Crunch. She effortlessly crushes the doorknob in her powerful grip. Wham! Lily kicks the door clean open, shouting Skelly's name. Standing in the ruined doorway, a shocked Lily holds the broken knob and asks what's going on. Lily stares in horror through the broken doorway at a censored, shocking scene as Skelly lets out an agonizing scream. A piercing shriek echoes through the apartment, visualized as a distorted, high-speed blur of pain. Nabi joins the chorus of agony, its face contorting into a cartoonish wail. Overwhelmed by the horrifying scene, Lily lets out her own scream of pure shock. After the chaos, Skelly's soul comically floats out of his body as he lies defeated on the bed next to a puddle-like Nabi. Finding the scene, Adam congratulates Skelly on giving birth to a kitten, while Skelly weakly protests that it's not what it looks like. Adam cheerfully explains that the worm cream he prescribed saved Skelly's pelvis from completely breaking in two. Witnessing the bizarre aftermath, Adam congratulates Skelly on his new kitten, leaving Skelly to deny the absurd assumption. Adam jokingly asks if he should congratulate Skelly's father on becoming a grandfather, but Skelly begs him to stop teasing. FWIP. Having helped, a cheerful Lily gives a friendly wave. Creak. The bedroom door slowly opens. Lily stands over Skelly and Nabi, confirming she locked the now broken front door while thinking it's definitely broken for good. Droop. Lily meekly insists she barely did anything, privately admitting she was the one who broke the door. Clatter. As Skelly gets tape from a drawer, Lily asks why he's being so humble, noting it's out of character for him. Pull. With blue painted nails, Skelly pulls a long strip of clear tape from the dispenser. Lily begins meticulously taping the broken door back together. Skelly asks what she's doing, and Lily explains that taping the front door helps her feel at ease, much to his confusion. Clack. Sitting by his bedside, Lily asks Skelly why he came to her place, and he asks why she's asking. Slap. Lily playfully pats his chest, joking that she came to congratulate him on giving birth before admitting she's kidding. Beginning to explain the real reason, she recalls texting the blue-haired girl that she will return the dress tomorrow. Outside Louie's room, the blue-haired girl fumes about her sister staying out, while Adam tries to coax Louie out with news of the dress's return. Lily explains to Skelly that she now understands why his brother threw the dress away and apologizes for taking it back. As a sincere apology, Lily offers to babysit Nabi whenever Skelly needs to go out for his volunteer work. Lying in bed, Skelly quietly accepts her apology, telling her it's fine. A quiet moment passes in the apartment as Lily watches over the resting Skelly and Nabi. For good measure, Lily adds even more tape to the heavily patched up front door. Lily asks Skelly if he's sure he won't take her up on her babysitting offer, standing by her handiwork on the door. The scene shifts to a dark tent where a green goblin-like creature named Gyuk asks his friend if he's hungry. The other goblin snaps that he's starving, but complains about being woken up right after falling asleep. Gyuk hushes him, whispering that he saw a nearby apple tree and plans to sneak out to pick some apples for them. His friend warns him against it, saying he'll be caught and beaten as a deserter, but Gyeokdal insists he won't get caught. Gyeokdal boasts he'll be back in a jiffy with apples, but his friend pleads with him to wait for morning rations. Convinced he'll starve before then, Gyeokdal dismisses his friend's warning with a smile. Seeing his friend dozing off, Gyeokdal prepares to leave, ignoring the desperate plea for him to stay. The friend reaches out a desperate hand, begging Gyeokdal to stay as he slips away into the night. Enraged and helpless, the friend screams Gyeokdal's name into the darkness. Years later, the friend is now an old, weary goblin, his face etched with sorrow and exhaustion. In what appears to be a hospital room, the old goblin sits alone in his bed. He turns to see two perfect, shiny red apples sitting on his bedside table, a painful reminder of the past. With a tear in his eye, the old goblin laments, "I told him not to go." The two red apples sit untouched on the plate, symbols of a long-held regret. The scene transitions to a bright, peaceful morning in a quiet neighborhood. A large rabbit neighbor stands outside apartment 101, calling for the resident. Paw, paw, paw. The rabbit is pummeled by a cat, and he furiously demands they quiet their pet that kept him up all night. The neighbor from room 102, a man with Medusa-like hair, opens his door and offers to help, much to the rabbit's relief. Hiss! The Medusa-haired man recoils as the rabbit jingles a key, explaining he had a spare all along. Rattle. The rabbit tries the key, telling his neighbor he wanted to respect their privacy, but the cat is ruining his life. Clunk! The doorknob breaks and falls off, leaving the rabbit confused. Seeing the taped-up broken door, the Medusa-haired man declares the tenants have destroyed property, giving the rabbit grounds for eviction, but the rabbit thinks that's going too far. Rip. The rabbit notices the tape, rips it away, and calls into the apartment for the resident of room 101, hearing only a faint wail in response. In a flash of terror, the rabbit imagines a hollow-eyed skull. The horrifying screams of Skelly and Nabby echo in a distorted, chaotic blur. An unseen voice declares the student in room 101 is dead, lamenting the tragedy of their life struggles. Wah. On the floor, Skelly protests that he isn't dead, as the panicked rabbit tells his neighbor to call the police. As Skelly thinks he's not dead yet, the scene shows a peaceful suburban home in stark contrast to the chaos. The panicked announcement repeats. The student in room 101 is dead, with the neighbor bemoaning their tragic end. The scene transitions to the opening graphic for MBS News 9. A news report shows a vandalized wall, calling it a hate crime against different species, with the message, "Low-class demons belong in cages." A deer-like news anchor condemns the outrageous hate crime, explaining that experts believe the message itself is the real issue. The anchor asks Professor Kim for his analysis, but a small, pink creature holding a notepad asks to explain something first. The pink professor begins his explanation by referencing testimonies and social media accounts of perpetrators targeting lower-class demons. The anchor summarizes that the perpetrators look down on certain demons, which the professor confirms, noting their lack of contempt for higher classes. The anchor calls it pathetic, and the pink professor agrees, cheekily holding up a child's drawing of a rainbow. The professor attributes the behavior to the perpetrator's age, their 150s, a time of narcissism and hormonal imbalance, as a captured vandal is shown. The professor introduces a government agency called the Department of Ego Killing, created to keep youth's inflated egos in check. A public service announcement for the DEK encourages a healthy sense of self and warns against embarrassing social media posts. The anchor asks about the process perpetrators undergo, and the pink professor prepares to elaborate. The professor explains the first step is deleting all social media, showing a young demon wailing over his lost accounts. After explaining the deletion is permanent, the professor describes how perpetrators' videos are critiqued by peers, which proves effective after a few sessions. In addition, a blue-skinned teacher leads a class in chanting "I am nothing" to suppress their egos. Beam. The pink professor happily explains the rehabilitation program, which can last from months to a year, focuses on healthy conversations and enlightenment. When the anchor asks about the program's effectiveness, the professor begins to answer simply. Sparkle. The result was a best-selling book, Why Did I Do That?, showing the program's profound impact on public consciousness. The news anchor thanks the professor as the scene shifts to the rabbit neighbor watching the broadcast in her living room. Chomp. The rabbit watches the news report on the Demon King's absence from the spring celebration, wondering aloud if he is sick. The anchor clarifies the Demon King's heavy workload is the likely reason for his absence as the rabbit lifts a carrot to her mouth. chomp. The rabbit muses that it's unfair to expect the busy Demon King to attend all events. The rabbit talks to herself while watching TV, wondering if the young Demon King has ever been on a date. As the news reports on rising youth unemployment, the rabbit grows concerned, thinking of the many students living nearby. Thinking of her neighbor in room 102 who has an interview, the rabbit worries he's sleep-deprived when her phone suddenly rings. Clack. The rabbit answers the phone, her conversation a series of surprised acknowledgments. Her face lights up with a buck-toothed, joyous smile as she listens to the caller. The scene reveals the neighbor from room 102, the man with Medusa-like green hair, dressed impeccably in a suit. In another room, a CD player plays a hymn to the demon god, the lyrics speaking of the challenge of keeping faith. While listening to the hymn, a muscular hand lifts a heavy dumbbell next to a CD titled, A Hymn for the Merciful Demon God. A man with yellow eyes and stitches on his face works out, singing along that his one wish is to become closer to the demon god. With determination, he finishes his set, vowing to get closer with all his heart. Ding dong. His doorbell interrupts him. Step. The elf-eared man walks toward the door, asking who is there. Plop. Peeking through the peephole, he looks down with a confused expression. He sees Lily's face pressed against the glass, grinning as she tells him to open up. Clack. The man opens the door, surprised, and asks Lily why she's there so early. Startled, he asks why she brought Skelly, but Lily casually replies they're late, which wasn't his question at all. Lily announces she got kicked out of her apartment for the day, shocking the man, who wonders how anyone would dare. Skelly clarifies he's a runaway college student and admits the eviction was his own fault. Lily pushes past, telling the man to step aside, who internally fumes that she's treating his home like her own. The man asks why she didn't just go to her place, but Lily explains her mom would be angry, causing his tail to twitch in irritation. With a hopeful smile, Lily offers to do that favor if he lets them stay, piquing his curiosity. She reminds him of the favor he begged for all semester, and a sleepy Skelly taps his fingers together, confirming it's that one. The elf-eared man's eyes widen in sudden, dawning realization. A blush spreads across his face as he breaks into a wide, fanged grin, thrilled by the offer. From a grassy hill, a group of silhouetted figures watches the apartment building, as one of them asks who just went inside. Snap! A green goblin girl seethes about who would dare lay a hand on our lovely flower, while her white dog-like friend scolds her for peeking into Reverend Adam's home. The flustered goblin girl insists she's not peeking at his home, but at Reverend Adam himself, as her friend declares it's the same thing, and others giggle. She defends her actions by comparing herself to a lovelorn character from an old drama who watched a rich girl play piano from afar. She finishes her explanation, stating that's why she's having a picnic on the hill, but her unimpressed friend glares at her. The dog-like friend bluntly calls her behavior a crime, and when the goblin girl protests about the drama, her friend calls the character a romanticized criminal. Wham! The goblin girl bows dramatically, thanking her friends for setting her straight, as her dog-like friend notes she knows when to admit her mistakes. Sigh. The goblin girl suggests they leave to avoid being a discourtesy, but a chicken-like friend in sunglasses points out that the two inside are doing something. Turn. The goblin girl whirls around asking what, as the entire group of friends looks on with curiosity. Through the apartment window, the silhouettes of two figures stand intimately close to each other. The silhouettes lean in, appearing as if they are about to kiss. The goblin girl stares in wide-eyed shock as a caption reveals she is 150 years old. The scene shifts to the Medusa-haired man in a job interview, where a dachshund-headed interviewer asks if he's falling asleep. Point. The interviewer points his pen, drawing attention to the man's snake-like hair. Snore. As his snake hair snoozes, the Medusa-haired man apologizes. The interviewer dismisses him with a flick of his hand, questioning his professionalism for bringing sleeping snakes to an interview. Snap. The interviewer impatiently tries to get the applicants to answer in order from his left, correcting a gray-skinned demon who responds out of turn. The interviewer berates the applicants for not following simple instructions, muttering about how small demons don't know when to speak up, and tells them to start again. With a confident smile, the gray-skinned demon applicant begins his answer, stating that employees must adopt an attitude befitting their position. FWIP. To demonstrate his point, he casually props his feet up on the chair in front of him. The gray-skinned demon smirks at the Medusa-haired man, as the interviewer dismisses him with a curt, "Good, next." The Medusa-haired man, caught off guard by the question, raises his hand and sheepishly asks for more time to think. The interviewer sighs, taps his pen, and decides to move on to the next question. The interviewer skips over the Medusa-haired man to question a small, plant-like applicant, leaving the Medusa-haired man to realize he was passed over for his earlier mistake. The Medusa-haired man sits alone and dejected in his chair, defeated. The scene returns to the Green Goblin girl, Miss Yanhua, standing in the field, looking utterly stunned by what she's witnessing. Recalling how Adam praised her as a diligent demon named Miss Yanhua, she struggles with a complex emotion, wondering if it's jealousy or anger. Her white, dog-like friend desperately tries to get her to calm down. Clutch. Calling herself an innocent teenager, Miss Yanhua frantically clutches her head, screaming at her friend to stop saying the risque word kissing. Yell. Another friend calls her a pervert, saying they should have expected this from someone who watches rom-coms early in the morning. The dog-like friend attempts to soothe Miss Yanhua's anger by dismissing the scene as a cliché turn of events. FWIP, the dog-like friend throws a kick, declaring that such romantic developments were popular 30 years ago and she shouldn't let it bother her. The group stares back toward the apartment building, where the silhouette remains in the window. Sparkle. Their imaginations run wild, envisioning the two figures gracefully crossing heads. Their fantasy continues with visions of wrestling and dancing as the gray-skinned demon from the interview exclaims in confusion, asking what they could possibly be doing. In a bed, an orange-haired girl explains they are kissing, as the scene reveals Adam leaning over and kissing Skelly on the forehead. A close-up shows the moment Adam's lips meet Skelly's bony forehead. Throb. Adam asks for Skelly's thoughts, and Skelly, looking disappointed, complains that it felt like punching a wall with his lips, to which Adam says, "I told you." Flop. Skelly sits up on the bed next to Lily, concluding that kissing a skeleton is too hard, but at least it satisfied his curiosity. As Adam repeats, it's like kissing a wall. Lily explains she couldn't trust the opinion of a demon who had never kissed a skeleton, prompting a blushing Adam to admit he tried kissing Skelly earlier in the semester. Adam explains Lily's persistent begging made him curious, while Skelly clarifies he let his friend Lily do it and that Adam wasn't close with them back then. Adam, now looking irritated, tells Lily and the cat to leave, leaving a confused Skelly to ask his BFF what's wrong. Outside, Miss Yanhua sweats, reasoning that despite what they heard, they still can't assume Adam and the other person aren't dating. As her friend starts to speak, Miss Yanhua cuts her off, insisting she knows it's not her business if Reverend Adam has a girlfriend, much to her friend's relief. Shalala. She clarifies that she's just jealous of the demon who possesses the flower she can only admire from afar, and she wants it too. Dash. Suddenly inspired, her white dog-like friend yells that she really wants it too, and dashes toward the apartment building, as a caption declares, "Her hormones are exploding." Inside, Adam holds Lily's leg as she puts on her shoe, offering to make her breakfast if she stays. Clack. Lily declines, saying she'll get in trouble with her mom if she's late, and rushes out the door as Miss Yanhua watches from the hill. As Lily walks away drinking from a carton, Miss Yanhua spots her and calls out, "Excuse me." Screech. Lily skids to a halt as Miss Yanhua runs up, asking her to wait for a moment. Dash. Miss Yanhua frantically tries to ask Lily a question, but Lily runs away, insisting she doesn't live there. Grab. Miss Yanhua catches Lily's jacket, pleading for her to wait and insisting her question is important as Lily trembles with irritation. A blushing Miss Yanhua stands beside a shy, blue-haired boy, both looking flustered. The scene transitions, showing a bright blue sky filled with fluffy white clouds. Inside, Adam sees Skelly and the baby Nabby sleeping soundly together and thinks they must be exhausted. Snap. Peeking from the doorway, Adam takes a picture with his phone, thinking this is his only chance. Adam examines the photo, annoyed that Nabby's head is blocking Skelly's face and complaining about the poor resolution, noting they look like a dumpling. Realizing he needs a better shot, Adam decides he has to get closer to take a picture without the cat. Snore. 2 panels show close-ups of Nabby sleeping peacefully. Raise. Listening to their snores, Adam raises his phone and confirms they are both fast asleep. Adam reflects that people often make mistaken judgments based only on someone's appearance and actions. Looking at the unedited photo of Skelly on his phone, Adam's finger hovers over the photo filters. Tap. Adam can't resist adding a bright filter with cutesy stickers to the picture of the sleeping skeleton. Snap. Leaning over the bed, Adam takes another picture and whispers, "Hey!" Wriggle. Skelly's glowing green eyes snap open with an intimidating glare as the baby shifts, catching Adam completely off guard. Adam freezes, a bead of sweat running down his face as he stares in shock. Smiling nervously, Adam explains he took a picture because they looked cute, offering to send it later, as Skelly asks if that was the reason. Adam claims the first photo was blurry and asks to take another, as a tired Skelly flops back down, simply saying, "Whatever." Snap. Adam successfully takes a close-up picture without the baby in the frame, planning to save it, send the others, and then delete the evidence for a perfect crime. Holding the sleeping baby, Skelly opens one eye and tiredly asks Adam why he took the picture. Skelly calls Adam out, asking why he left the shutter sound on if he was trying to be sneaky. Defeated, Adam mentally calls himself an idiot. Adam stands awkwardly by the bed as Skelly lies with his back to him. Skelly questions how Adam would even know if a photo was taken without a shutter sound, and Adam explains that cameras have worked that way for 150 years, as Miss Yanhwa's friend laughs, calling him worse than some Mr. Sundal. The scene shifts to the rabbit, who excitedly tells her mom on the phone that she's getting married, receiving heartfelt congratulations, and promising to clear out her old room soon. Rummage. Thrilled to finally clean out her old room, the rabbit begins sorting through a cardboard box full of her belongings. She finds an old Super Rabbit doll and a baby blanket, fondly remembering how her kids loved them and wondering if she should keep them. Touched, the rabbit discovers her old baby diary, overwhelmed by the memories contained in the box. Reading an old entry about how she cried along with her babies, the rabbit feels like she can still hear them. Flail. A flashback shows a close-up of a wailing baby. Pissed. Back in the present, Skelly is annoyed by a crying baby, thrashing on the bed and muttering that it can cry all it wants for all he cares. Skelly resists the urge to help, thinking he's not going to give in and feeling like he's the servant to Nabi's master. Pop. A tiny hand reaches out from the baby. The baby seems to mumble, sir. Skelly, roll. Adam, now in an apron, runs into the room as Skelly and the baby roll on the bed, with Skelly desperately calling for Daddy! Suck. Adam, surprised to see Skelly up so early, expresses his disbelief that a lazy demon would sacrifice sleep to care for something, as Skelly holds the now pacified baby. Skelly admits he didn't intend to wake up, but a flashback to the sound of wailing outside shows what prompted him. Rise. Annoyed by the crying, Skelly tries to ignore it, but a dark, shadowy figure with glowing blue eyes rises from the sleeping Lily beside him. The enraged shadow creature yells that the noise is sobering it up and orders a smaller, terrified being to handle it. Pat. The shadow creature pats the crying baby, which is now being held by a scared, gray, featureless humanoid. Pat. The gray being now holds the quieted baby while the shadow creature continues to pat it soothingly. The shadow creature asks if the baby wants milk, and a startled Skelly quickly presents a bottle as the baby raises its hands. Pause. The baby suddenly stops drinking, leaving a confused Skelly to wonder why. Skelly asks the baby if it's full, while the shadow creature asks if he's done feeding it now. Skelly has a clinical realization, identifying the liquid as urine that animals excrete after drinking, as a diagram illustrates the process. Rise. The shadow creature rears back in disgust, exclaiming that it reeks. As Lily wakes up again, the shadow creature informs her it smells, and Skelly explains that Nabi just urinated. Lily giggles, amused by the situation and asking if peed is the correct term, much to Skelly's bewilderment. Lily explains she has a great way to get rid of the smell, and a skeptical Skelly asks if she's serious. She proudly presents a flask, announcing, tequila. Skelly remembers seeing on TV that alcohol can get rid of smells, as a silhouetted Lily takes a large swig from the flask. The shadow creature happily exclaims that's what it's talking about, while Skelly sniffs the air in amazement, realizing he can't smell a thing. Trickle. In the present, Skelly tells Adam he stayed up all night handling things himself, just as Adam points out that Nabi is peeing again. The scene transitions to a daytime exterior shot of the modern apartment building. Crunch. The Medusa-haired man is shown eating a dark snack. Nom. Chug. While Lily chugs a drink in the park, Miss Yanhwa approaches, declaring she'll just get something as the Medusa-haired man sits on a bench nearby. Crunch. Sitting alone, the Medusa-haired man wonders about his remaining money before deciding it's better not to think about it. As footsteps approach, the Medusa-haired man tries to convince himself he's just peacefully relieving stress in the park. Miss Yanhwa stands before Lily with her fists clenched, ready for a confrontation. Miss Yanhwa aggressively demands to know if Lily is dating Reverend Adam. A surprised Lily dribbles her drink and asks why, and Lily accuses Miss Yanhwa of stalking, warning her it's a crime. Point. Lily declares Miss Yanhwa a criminal, pointing at her phone as a blue pointy-eared man proclaims, "We need you." Zing. A brilliant idea seems to strike Miss Yeonhwa. Lily impatiently demands her question, so Miss Yeonhwa hesitantly asks if she and Reverend Adam were kissing through the apartment window. FWIP. Lily smugly points to her phone, which again displays DEKOOO. Zing. A nervous Miss Yeonhwa has another sudden, dawning realization. Arg. Lily's patience wears thin as she angrily tells Miss Yeonhwa to hurry up and ask. An imaginary textbook page shows Miss Yeonhwa failing a quiz on conducting yourself properly by asking an inappropriate question. The narration explains this led to her confessing her crimes and getting dragged to the DEK. Crumble, the gray, featureless humanoid from the flashback, wishes they could go back in time, lamenting their decision to stop Lily as the Medusa-haired man watches. Lick. The Medusa-haired man, annoyed that a spiky-haired succubus is starting a fight, predicts the situation will escalate into a big commotion. Depressed, the Medusa-haired man sits on the bench and wishes all disruptive things would disappear from the tranquil park. Heave-ho. In a cute imaginary sequence, the Medusa-haired man physically throws his gloominess away from the bench, determined not to be sad. The Medusa-haired man muses that the girl reminds him of his little brother, who also causes trouble, and remembers he hasn't heard from his brother in a month. Dash. Miss Yeonhwa's friends rush to the scene, with one yelling that she should have at least put her shoes on first. Tap. The friends surround the silent Miss Yeonhwa, wondering if she was asked a rude question while she worries about being arrested. Extend. The white dog-like friend introduces their group by presenting a business card, explaining that this is what they do. The business card for the Red Lotus group advertises their services as money collectors, contract killers, and problem solvers. The white-haired friend apologizes if Miss Yeonhwa seems scary, explaining they're just rough for sport, and a surprised Lily calls them too kind. Tilt. The friends apologize for threatening a frail citizen, but Lily questions their words while noticing they've put the wrong shoe on Miss Yeonhwa's foot. A voice promises to help, completely free of charge. The scene transitions to a warm, orange-hued sky at dusk. The view focuses on the apartment building, now bathed in the light of the setting sun. Blink. Skelly stands dressed in a black shirt, tenderly holding the swaddled baby Nabby. Adam explains what one should expect from a clergyman as Skelly asks what happened to all the other clothes he used to own. Adam says he threw his old clothes away after being baptized and now leads a simple, holy life with only his work shirt and clergy robes, which Skelly can borrow. Carrying Nabby, Skelly says he'll be leaving, and Adam waves, wishing him a safe trip home. Clack. The moment Skelly is gone, Adam's expression becomes intensely serious. Adam looks at his phone, where he's received a message with an image preview of a realistic skull. The scene shifts to the exterior of a glass-walled building at night. A person with long, rabbit-like ears walks down a city street at night, looking at their phone and passing by Skelly, who is holding Nabby. Wow. Hearing a baby cry, the rabbit-eared person glances back curiously towards Skelly and the fussing Nabby. Skelly frantically tells Nabby to stop crying, worried that everyone staring will think he's abusing the baby. Wow. As the baby continues to cry, Skelly looks down in frustration, groaning. Throb. Holding the baby, Skelly is overcome with regret, thinking he never should have adopted a cat in the first place. Step. As he walks up a staircase, Skelly bemoans his halved budget from Nabby's vet bills, and the constant crying that makes them a nuisance everywhere. Step. Still climbing with the wailing baby, Skelly complains that he ordered a sophisticated Persian cat, not this troublesome creature. Skelly sighs with exhaustion, looking up at the towering city buildings around him. From a high angle, Skelly looks up with glowing red eyes, clutching Nabby as he ascends a sterile staircase. Standing on an outdoor walkway at night, Skelly holds the baby and mutters that this whole situation pisses him off. Skelly and the baby rattle. In a jarring close-up, Skelly's head vibrates intensely as a train speeds past. Rattle. Startled, Skelly clutches the baby on the pedestrian bridge, letting out a cry of shock as the train rattles below. Now fully awake from the scare, Skelly notes how dangerously close the train tracks are to the bridge. Realizing Nabby must be just as startled, Skelly looks down to see the baby has a shocked, familiar expression. As Skelly pleads silently for the baby not to cry, its face begins to crumple. Teary, the baby's face contorts as it lets out a wail of "No." Slump. The scene shifts to a deep blue sky filled with white clouds, signaling a change in location. The view settles on the ornate, arched windows of a grand building at night. Inside, a pointy-eared servant with long white hair asks his master for an update on young Master Skelly's condition. The view pans to a powerful figure with a white, horned head sitting in a large red throne. The master, looking at a photo of a human skull, declares he can no longer just sit back and watch the situation unfold. From his throne, the master gives an order to send a younger demon in a pristine white suit bows respectfully, acknowledging the command with, "Yes, master." The long-haired servant smiles confidently, announcing that a different, blue-skinned demon with white hair and pointed ears steps. The blue-skinned demon is shown from behind, dressed in a modern white hoodie and jeans. The long-haired servant confidently repeats that he has thought of a good plan. The blue-skinned demon flinches but agrees. As the master adds, they have time to convince them to return on their own. The master trembles with frustration, fearing they'll just run away again before letting out a weary sigh. Jolt. The long-haired servant's bright blue eyes widen in sudden alarm. The master sternly warns his servant not to overstep his bounds, and the long-haired servant's expression hardens with quiet determination. The servant thinks that, kneeling by the throne, the servant promises to handle things as soon as his master, with a somber expression. His resolve is set as the scene shifts to a quiet house. Snap. Back in the present, Skelly snaps a glowing pink lollipop in his skeletal jaws. Chomp. He savors the candy, his green eyes glowing with satisfaction. With leaning against a wall, Skelly questions his devotion to the annoying hairless animal before having the ironic realization that he must truly. Annoyed by the news, Skelly covers his face in frustration. Musing on the Demon King's 2 prior absences, Skelly lowers his hand, dropping the rest of his candy. As a train rattles nearby, Skelly steps back toward his building. Entering his room, Skelly finds Nabby sleeping peacefully, only to be startled by the landlady calling out to him, confirming she's at his door. Skelly hastily explains himself as the rabbit landlady says she found some old things of her children's that his tenant might find useful. The landlady offers a blanket, explaining it's a magical sleeping blanket that uses mana to soothe the baby's anxieties and help them sleep. A surprised Skelly listens as his phone buzzes with a text from his long-lost brother, who apologizes for his silence due to a broken phone. The landlady explains the blanket will help with the cat's crying as his phone buzzes with another text. Yawn. Back in his room, Skelly chuckles at the cute yawn as the landlady leaves, complimenting the sleeping baby. A notification dings. Annoyed by the late-night message, Skelly checks his phone to find a text from Potopia Vet asking him to check his email. Rise. Skelly stands up from his desk, annoyed by the vet's late message, while an illustrated cat declares that being cute excuses its lack of manners. Opening the email, Skelly is shocked to see a detailed Nabby's lifestyle manual, and realizes the vet works much harder than he initially thought. Sip. Elsewhere, a green-skinned man with pointed ears sips from a teacup, wondering why the furball always sends him such useless material. Looking at the same manual on his laptop, he dismisses it as half-baked research from someone desperate to make a name for themselves in academia. A close-up of the manual displays instructions for hairless creatures, including maintaining body temperature and avoiding tight clothes or extreme temperatures. TSK, the green-skinned man recalls disagreeing with someone named Mago, who he calls both greedy and ethical, worrying Mago will report him for acting alone. Lift, he anticipates an opportunity to approach the owners soon, but knows he and Mago will inevitably clash over their differing methods. Clack, setting down his cup, he fantasizes about getting the mutant without anyone knowing, but concedes it's too risky to do it himself, deciding not to rush. He picks up a business card for the Aaron Knights Agency, viewing it as a golden opportunity to solve his problem. On the phone, the green-skinned man offers someone a simple job with a handsome deposit. He continues the call, stating he's just giving them a try, and that if they fail, they must delete his number and the information he sends. Click. Promising to double their pay upon success to prevent them from stealing the deposit, he drafts an email to, quote, sub123@moogle.com and orders them to bring him the hairless pig. He finishes his order, telling them to retrieve the animal in the picture he's about to send, all while looking at Navi's photo on his screen. The Odd Jobs agency card for the Aaron Knights is shown again, as the green-skinned man reiterates his generous offer is to prevent them from fleeing with his deposit. While on the phone, the green-skinned man gives the final command to bring him the animal shown in the picture he is about to send. A full-page illustration shows Nabby sitting sweetly in a pink onesie with a red flame emblem and a flowing yellow cape. Tap. Back in the apartment, Skelly taps the rolled-up manual decisively, exclaiming, "Number. Point." Skelly gestures angrily toward Nobby, who has just made a yellow puddle on the floor. Lift. Skelly holds up the manual, explaining to Nobby that kittens should already be potty trained by their mothers and asks if Nobby is too young for that. The scene shows an open yellow dresser drawer, filled with the baby clothes the landlady provided. Toss. Nami, now dressed in an adorable panda suit, sits on the floor as Skelly tosses a toy mouse. FWIP. As Nobby watches, Skelly sits on the floor and flips through the manual again to see what it says. He reads a section of the manual suggesting that since the creature is wearing clothes, putting a diaper on it might be a good idea. Push. Skelly wonders aloud what a diaper is, while Nobi, in its panda suit, pushes against the new litter box. Nobby begins shaking back and forth excitedly, and Skelly, holding his jawbone, asks if it's dancing. Raggle. Skelly lifts the wiggling panda-clad Nobby, a fond smile on his face. Announcing he's going to the store, Skelly tucks the happy baby securely inside his green jacket. The scene transitions to the exterior of Darkmart, a large blue supermarket advertising 50% off household items. A pink, octopus-like creature in a Darkmart vest and cap decides to do some light shoplifting, musing about stealing a few shopping carts. Whistle. The octopus thief plans to pretend to clean up before making a run for it with the goods. Step. Someone grabs the back of the octopus's vest, but it resolves to ignore them. Grab. A skeletal hand tightens its grip, and the octopus glares, realizing its pursuer is relentless. Skelly greets the terrified octopus employee, whose eyes reflect skulls, and mentions that this is his first time in a big supermarket. Back in color, the sweating octopus employee is shocked, realizing this is the first skeleton it has seen in its 300-year life. Annoyed by the weird demon, the employee decides to get it over with quickly and tells Skelly to follow. The octopus employee instructs Skelly that the first thing he should do is grab a shopping cart or a basket. Skelly politely explains that he only intends to buy one item. The confused employee asks what he needs, and Skelly explains he wants to buy something called a diaper for Nabby. Poke. Skelly gently pokes the panda-clad baby in his jacket, identifying it as the little squirt who will use the diaper. The employee, assuming the panda is a pet, figures Skelly must be rich and recommends a medium-sized diaper for bipeds. Done. Skelly is stunned by the massive size of the diaper box the employee hands him. Flustered, Skelly says he doesn't need so many and asks if he can just buy one or two to try them out first. The employee warns him that he'll likely use the entire pack in 2 weeks at a rate of 10 a day, shocking Skelly. Skelly looks at Nabby skeptically while the employee laments that diaper costs are why they have to resort to stealing from supermarkets. As Skelly pushes a shopping cart, the employee remarks that it's one less cart for them to steal, prompting a confused "why" from Skelly. Haha, Skelly laughs at the idea of stealing a cart, but the employee's deadpan expression suggests it's a real problem. The employee's eyes narrow in frustration, thinking about how much demons who steal carts piss them off. The scene shifts to the exterior of the Aaron Knights Agency building against a bright blue sky. This week's top members notice shows photos of Girly Pup, a dog-eared girl, and Coolness Overload, a masked boy targeted by a red reticle. In an online forum, a user named Blue Dragon Princess is condescendingly chided about demon species before a moderator bans her for being underage. Arg. A person with white hands, Yejin gets annoyed by arguments in the comment section of her post. A blonde man tells Yejin to stop posting if it bothers her, but she defiantly vows to keep posting online. Sigh. The blonde man with purple eyes looks over his shoulder and softly calls out, "Slap!" Yejin hits her own cheek, saying, "Oops," while practicing her city girl accent as a bird-like demon watches. The blonde demon climbs through a window while his bird-like companion asks how his interview went. He just grunts. Don't even ask. He blames a small demon for ruining the interview, prompting Yejin to tell him to calm down while the bird-like demon speculates their whole group was rejected. The bird-like demon questions if the blonde was the only one not hired. Flexing in a mirror, he denies it, wishing for broader shoulders. With a wicked grin, the bird-like demon calls his bluff, reminding him he barely passed the written test before the interview. Huff. The bird-like demon huffs defensively while Yejin laughs, asking if that's what really happened. He insists it wasn't. The bird-like demon deflects, asking Yejin about a new job email, which she confirms she answered. It's a simple kidnapping of an animal. Yejin scolds the shirtless blonde demon for not getting dressed before coming downstairs, and he hastily apologizes. Slap. Yejin smacks the blonde man's face, playfully noting that his old accent has returned. The blonde demon, now wearing a beanie, tells his friend to have some manners, and the bird-like demon jokingly agrees, sparing their eyes. Yejin aggressively grabs the blonde demon's face, who is shocked by her strength. Whack. The blonde demon retaliates, pulling the bird-like demon's ear and calling him a shady salesman. An unseen person shouts at the idiots to stop fighting and look at the laptop, which shows an angry baby. The three demons, Yejin, the blonde, and the bird-like one, stare in stunned silence at the laptop screen. The laptop screen shows a close-up of the angry, black-haired baby who appears to have skeletal wings. The team stares at the laptop, trying to identify the creature. Yejin clicks on an attachment labeled Hairless Pig. Yejin realizes their target is a pig from the human world, but the bird-like demon notes it looks unusual. The group mocks Yejin for being a country bumpkin who has never seen a pig or used the internet to look one up. Annoyed, Yejin asks if they are trying to pick a fight, and the blonde demon quickly apologizes as they are told to take it outside. A decision is made to call a certain Mr. Octo about the job, as a phone dials an unregistered number. Pop! A tentacle-like finger shows how a red platform can be unfolded from a shopping cart's basket. A baby in a panda suit reaches a pawed hand toward a skeletal one, making a soft goo sound. A skeleton finds the shopping cart's baby seat convenient, but a purple store clerk clarifies that's not why demons steal them. The skeleton thanks the purple, one-eyed clerk from Dark Mart who says it was interesting to meet a skeleton for the first time. The skeleton looks down with a question mark over his head at the panda baby sitting in his cart. Ring. The purple store clerk's phone rings loudly. FWIP. The multi-eyed purple clerk answers the phone with a cheerful company greeting. Hello, we are the friendly and helpful errand knights. The blonde demon, on the phone, asks if the clerk is working. He confirms he is, stating he called about a new job. The blonde demon scolds the purple clerk for not using his name on the burner phone, laughing that he actually recited the company intro. The blonde demon confirms they handled the last job and sternly warns the clerk to erase all transaction records or be cut out of the next one. The clerk pleads not to be excluded from their side hustle, as the blonde demon tells him to do better and asks about the new job. The clerk reveals the job is a kidnapping, which alarms the blonde demon until he learns the target is just a pet. The blonde demon is stunned to hear that the client only provided a rough location and a single picture. The clerk explains the target is a pig, and when the blonde suggests grabbing any farm pig, the clerk insists this one is different. Frustrated by the lack of information, the blonde demon stares at the baby picture, while the clerk suggests they were hired because the target is so unique. The clerk muses that he's never seen a skeleton before and assumes they're common in the city, but the blonde demon corrects him. Holding the panda baby close, the skeleton quietly shops for devildom milk, lost in thought. FWIP. The panda baby's paw-like hand is gently tucked away. Hidden among the aisles, the bird-like demon reports that the skeleton is standing in the pet corner. The bird-like demon reports that the animal looks similar to the photo but is somehow off. He's told it might be a disguise and to proceed. The skeleton glances over his shoulder, a flicker of awareness in his green eyes. A display of books titled When We Still Lived with Humans is prominently featured as a bestseller for little demons. The skeleton recognizes the book's title from his childhood as he examines the display. The blonde demon orders his team to stop moving around, while Yejin complains the bag of white bones is restless. He tells her to grab the pig now. While the skeleton is distracted by a revised edition of the book, the bird-like demon orders his two companions to go. Flip, the skeleton opens the book to see if it's changed, finding a stark warning that humans are a dangerous species. The skeleton remains absorbed by the best-selling children's books, with the panda baby waiting patiently in his cart. The bird-like demon cautiously approaches the distracted skeleton, who is still flipping through the book. The book illustrates a grim past, a plague spread through a demon village after one consumed a contaminated human. It continues, explaining that humans retaliated with such violence that they became a grave danger to all demonkind. The skeleton muses that books like this would make modern demon kids curious about humans, just as he was. He recalls being grounded as a child for wandering off to find a human, much to a young Eugene's bewilderment. The memory concludes with a warning. Humans are depicted as delicious but dangerous, like tempting sweets. Lost in thought, the bird-like demon admits to himself that he too would like to taste a human someday. Suddenly, the panda baby reaches out from the cart and grabs hold of the bird-like demon's jacket. Ooh, smack! The skeleton instinctively slaps the bird-like demon's hand away from the cart, startling him. The bird-like demon recoils in pain as the skeleton looks back, both of them momentarily confused by the sudden action. The skeleton mistakenly scolds the panda baby for causing trouble, threatening to send it away if it continues to bother him. Ooh, smack! Now at the checkout, the skeleton complains about his heavy basket, only for the panda baby to smack it from behind. Gah! A demon with long yellow hair joins them, asking about a gift, but the baby smacks him as well. The disguised kidnapping team, the blonde, the bird-like demon, and a white-haired one, crouch in defeat, wondering how their target keeps foiling them. Easy. As the white-haired demon calls the baby an attention seeker, the blonde demon's phone vibrates with an incoming message. Number 1 here, I'm done on my end. How can I help? With a confident smirk, the blonde demon, wearing a beanie, shows the message to his team, signaling that backup is available. Lift. Oblivious to the plot against him, the skeleton browses the kitchenware aisle, testing the weight of a frying pan. A friendly pink demon with a blue cap approaches and offers assistance, noticing the skeleton seems to be looking for a frying pan. Nabi, in its panda suit, sits contentedly inside the metal shopping cart. A blue, bird-beaked demon in a yellow jacket holds a small bunny doll, explaining its thin, protective coating won't last long. As Skelly holds Nabi, the bird-beaked demon points to another doll, recommending a popular, high-quality brand. The bird-beaked demon's legs are shown walking away across the checkered supermarket floor. Skelly and the octopus employee watch as the bird-beaked demon, now holding Nabi, walks away with them. The bird-beaked demon thinks he was afraid Nabi would cry when taken, but feels relieved that it's staying quiet. He looks down fondly at Nabi, who is holding the bunny doll he was just shown. Noticing the doll has fallen, the demon hesitates, but a blonde man with a stitched mouth yells for him to forget it and hurry. The bird-beaked demon murmurs, okay, as he walks away, leaving the unpaid doll lying on the floor. He pulls Nabi closer, his expression turning grim and possessive. Tears well up in Nabi's eyes as it realizes it's being taken away from Skelly. The bird-beaked demon wonders why Nabi is making a sad face as the baby begins to whimper. Nabi's fear turns into a full-blown, tearful wail. Wah! Alerted by the cry, Skelly whips his head around in alarm. Skelly's green eyes narrow with fury as he turns to face the commotion. The octopus employee looks nervously from Skelly toward the retreating figures and the empty shopping cart. Skelly calls out, "Excuse me, hey," trying to get the attention of the bird-beaked demon who is walking away. Skelly calls out again, more urgently, as the bird-beaked demon continues to carry Nabi away. "Hey," Skelly says, then sternly commands, "I said stop," as the demon keeps walking. The bird-beaked demon thinks, "Are you insane? Why would I stop?" While the blonde man asks him if something is wrong. In a flashback, a young, winged, bird-beaked demon looks up thoughtfully, asking about creatures that live on mountain cliffs and why they don't have wings. An older, larger winged demon explains that skeletons are born from mana, but can only sustain themselves and can't use magic properly. The young demon asks how he can be sure. The older one, his grandfather, asks if he'd ever waste half his mana on the toy soldiers he was given. "Why would I? That'd be a waste," the young one exclaims, and his grandfather explains that is precisely why resurrection-type demons can't be strong. The grandfather concludes that since fighting means extinction for skeletons, their best decision was to live high on cliffs to avoid other demons. Freeze. Back in the present, Skelly's feet stop, and he begins to float off the ground, a strange power activating. Skelly's eyes glow a furious red as he asks a silent, menacing question. The bird-beaked demon stares back in shock, clutching a terrified, crying Nabi. Hiding nearby, a girl with a single purple eye wonders why the demon stopped, while the blonde man asks if the floating skeleton is just CG. The octopus employee stammers, "S, sir," looking at Skelly, who is now surrounded by a strange red aura. Dash. The single-eyed girl angrily declares the skeleton is using an underhanded trick, as Skelly glares with glowing red eyes. Falter. The octopus employee stares, terrified, at Skelly's face. Whoosh! With a burst of speed, Skelly flies past the stunned employee. Thud! Skelly's power gives out, and he crashes face first onto the tiled floor. The octopus employee looks down in shock at Skelly's motionless body. The employee timidly steps closer to the fallen Skelly, asking, "Sir?" Peeking from behind his own shoulder, the octopus employee panics, crying, "Oh no! What do I do? This isn't good." He vows to go find any demons who might be able to help the collapsed skeleton. Shatter! A flashback begins as a memory of a flower vase breaking fills the screen. A younger Skelly, dressed in formal attire, stands in a dark room, crying out in despair that he can no longer use magic and questioning why his mana was taken. Wham! He is violently thrown back as a white-gloved hand plunges into his chest, ripping his dark mana from his body. His master looms over him, declaring that Skelly's mana will always belong to him and warning him to behave. A close-up shows Skelly's eye in the past, dripping with green tears of stolen mana and utter despair. Awake. Skelly's eyes snap open on the supermarket floor, glowing with renewed determination. The bird-beaked demon looks back at the trembling, collapsed Skelly and scoffs, thinking how stupid skeletons are for trying to imitate their masters and risking death by overusing mana. Bottom. The demon feels the suggestion spellbreaking and resolves to flee, thinking he will be long gone by the time the skeleton wakes up. Dash! He clutches Nami and starts to run, shouting, "Now!" just as someone off-screen yells, "There." Clatter. Skelly pushes himself up from the floor, ready for action. Swoosh. With a fierce expression, Skelly swings a newly formed, black, shadowy weapon through the air. Holding his new weapon, Skelly stands ready, his green eyes burning with intensity. Skelly's shadowy frying pan flies through the air, aimed directly at the kidnapper's head. The single-eyed girl watches in shock as the pan narrowly misses her, heading for its target. Thwack! The pan smashes into the bird-beaked demon's face, startling the captive Nabby. As the pan ricochets away, Skelly glares from the background while the demon recoils from the blow. The bird-beaked demon stumbles backward, clutching Nabby as he loses his balance. Skelly's eyes shift from their normal green to a furious, glowing red as his rage intensifies. Flop! The blonde man catches his stunned comrade, complaining about having to carry him, while the single-eyed girl says they have no choice since he's out cold. The blonde man thinks it's a good thing the skeleton is down too. Wah. With a malicious grin, the blonde man takes the crying Nabby, calling it a little pig. Thud. Skelly stumbles to a halt, his sudden burst of power leaving him weakened. A crowd of demons gathers, noting the late discovery and wondering if they should call an ambulance for the collapsed skeleton. Murmur. Onlookers whisper, questioning what a skeleton is doing in the supermarket, and if it's even alive. Spring, with a sudden burst of energy, Skelly leaps over the stunned crowd, who cry out in shock. The crowd screams, they're alive, as Skelly glares with terrifying glowing red eyes. Click. At the kidnapper's hideout, the blonde man opens a safe, thinking the job smells like money and deciding to steal the cash. The blonde man checks his phone, telling his partners the kidnapped animal could be worth over 10 million won if it's a rare species. The single-eyed girl expresses doubt about the animal's value, while the blonde man, Yeji, refuses to take a cut less than 5 million. Goyle, the bird-beaked demon, announces the transfer has arrived. The single-eyed girl asks if the transfer is 5 million, while Yeji suggests they run with the money, but she advises they just do the job and ask for a bonus. Goyle stares at the laptop in disbelief, announcing the transfer was for a staggering 50 million won. Stunned by the amount, Goyle stammers and explains to his partners that he checked the transfer history. In a brief flashback, the blonde man, Yeji, yells furiously at his two accomplices. Sway! Back in the supermarket, Yeji holds Nabi as the single-eyed girl shoves the dazed Goyle forward. Wahanabi continues to cry inconsolably while being carried away by the kidnappers. One of the kidnappers thinks that since they're country bumpkins, no one will find them if they hide in the countryside. As the kidnappers walk away, Skelly's frying pan, now glowing blue, flies past them like a missile. Dash! The kidnappers turn in alarm as Skelly charges after them, his weapon closing in. Dash! Surrounded by crackling energy, Skelly sprints toward the terrified kidnappers with blinding speed. A horrifying, warped image of Skelly's skull rushes forward, a vision of pure rage. The kidnappers freeze in terror, screaming as Skelly bears down on them. Yeji and the single-eyed girl recoil in absolute fear at the sight of the approaching skeleton. Panicking, Yeji screams and carelessly tosses Nabi into the air as Skelly lunges. Skelly safely catches the falling Nabi, cradling the baby securely in his arms. Dash, my school loans. Yeji wails in despair as he turns and flees for his life. With Nabi safe, Skelly glares at the retreating kidnappers, his eyes glowing with mismatched red and green fury. Yeji glances back in terror, his escape shadowed by the specter of Skelly's menacing hand. The danger past, Skelly gently pats the head of the baby in his arms. Pat, pat. Skelly lovingly holds Nabi close, comforting the frightened baby. Pat Skelly continues to softly pat Nabi's head, reassuring the little one. Standing triumphantly with Nabi, Skelly's forgotten frying pan lies on the floor behind him. Outside Darkmark, the single-eyed girl carries her two male partners, who bicker about one having to be carried and the other's accent. The scene transitions to the exterior of the Aaron Knights agency building. Thwack. Inside the agency, someone is taking a hard punch to the gut. Thwack. The single-eyed girl unleashes her frustration on Yeji, who is tied to a punching bag, screaming about her loans. Pow. Despite the beating, Yeji insists he was right about something. Yeji yells that he's certain he saw a zipper on the panda suit Nabi was wearing. The single-eyed girl tells him to give it up, while a dejected Yeji mutters, "Damn it." With a bandaged Goyle resting on the couch, the single-eyed girl turns to Yeji and says, "Okay, Yeji." Flop. Yeji collapses onto a wrestling mat as the single-eyed girl flatly tells him he's wrong. Thud. Back home, Skelly drops his shopping bag and frying pan, remarking that he was in so much shock he doesn't remember walking back. He looks down, realizing that in his daze, he still managed to pick up the items he had dropped on the floor. At the checkout, the cashier notices the bunny toy is damaged, but Skelly, exhausted, just tells him to ring it up, having paid for everything. Back home, Skelly sits alone on his bed, lost in quiet, somber thought. Meanwhile, Nabi, wearing a panda suit, thinks that this shabby place isn't home, and they're only staying temporarily. Skelly looks down, holding the warm, sleeping baby in his lap. In a cute interlude, a group of characters, including a girl named Lily, are bundled up against the cold, noting they're always on standby. As Skelly looks down, Nabi thinks once more about how this shabby place isn't home, and their stay is only temporary. Skelly opens a yellow dresser drawer filled with neatly folded baby clothes. After asking a freshly changed Nabi if they're all better, Skelly tosses the dirty panda suit into a basin of water with a splash. Wobble! As Skelly looks at a book, Nabi tries to stand on the bed, only to flop harmlessly onto his lap. At the kitchen counter, Skelly prepares a bottle, thinking Nabi doesn't have a care in the world while he's still reeling from shock. Looking at the sleeping baby, Skelly morbidly wonders if the kidnappers intended to eat Nabi, musing that a chubby baby might look appetizing to demons. Skelly gently scoops up the stirring baby, who lets out a small whimper. Startled by the sound, Skelly leans in with a worried expression and asks, "What's wrong?" Nabi begins to wail, and a note explains that babies can develop fevers from crying for extended periods. Worried about Nabi's crying, Skelly arrives outside the Potopia Veterinary Clinic. Cradled in Skelly's arms, Nabi looks up curiously, letting out an agreeable sound. The cat doctor informs a nervous Skelly that Nabi's temperature is low for a cat, and Skelly wonders if it dropped on the way over. A small panel cheekily introduces Nabi's butt. The vet begins explaining the proper procedure for taking a cat's temperature, mentioning the use of Vaseline or ointment. The tutorial continues, showing a thermometer being inserted into a cat's rear, noting the proper depth and normal temperature range. Toss. The cheerful cat doctor finishes the demonstration, having explained the procedure. Grab. Skelly protectively holds Nabi, explaining he's too worried to be separated from them. The cat doctor, intensely curious, asks if it's because of the incident, and agrees to watch Nabi closely all day. Leaning over Nabi's carrier, Skelly promises to return for them tomorrow, explaining he has things to take care of. Skelly admits he didn't want to leave Nabi alone, and in response, Nabi grabs his finger and gives it a determined chomp. Annoyed, Skelly thinks about how Nabi dared to bite him with only 2 teeth, while the cat doctor schedules another appointment in the background. Skelly looks over the vet bill for Nabi's care, totaling $162,001 for the examination and a day of hospitalization. Unable to watch, Skelly covers his eyes as the vet holds up a tiny, waving Nabby to say goodbye. The scene shifts to the exterior of the Aaron Knights agency building. Clack! Someone places a bowl of black bean noodles on the table, telling the group to lighten up, and a dejected voice replies, "Okay." Snap. A pair of chopsticks is broken in frustration. While eating, Yeji tells a terrified, shaking Goyle to lighten up as the single-eyed girl looks on. A bandaged, pointy-eared demon eats his noodles with poise as an unseen person tells Yeji to learn from him, guessing he's quiet from embarrassment. "Damn it," someone shouts, having slammed their nearly empty bowl on the table. The single-eyed girl tells Yeji to stop being a baby and put the bowl down, while he sulks on the couch. She blames Yeji for getting spooked and throwing Nabi back at Skelly, while Goyle thinks it's best to stay out of their argument. Yeji complains about their poor food budget and the fridge full of only banana milk, to which the single-eyed girl retorts that he likes it. Ta-da! The scene transitions with a flourish, showing an ad for Gold instant coffee. Dizzy with regret, Yeji clutches his head, lamenting that if he had known things would turn out this way. Lift! The single-eyed girl calmly sips her drink, observing his dramatic display. She reasons that while they face prison, if caught, the procurement team, who travels between worlds, faces a much graver fate. If caught, they'd be executed. She says this to the pointy-eared demon on the couch, who confirms he's aware of the stakes. The single-eyed girl reminds him that this isn't forever, and once they've earned enough, they can return to their own lives. Skelly walks up to a residential house, his purpose unclear. Step, he approaches the property's front gate. Step, he walks along the side of the house, passing a red pipe. Step. As he nears a basement entrance, the sound of mumbling can be heard from below. Wondering if they are gone, Skelly descends the stairs and halts before door 101, casting a long shadow. He enters a dark, quiet apartment that appears to be empty. Skelly is now holding the frying pan he lost at the supermarket. A person with green, snake-like hair opens a door, holding Skelly's frying pan, and is surprised to see him standing there. The snake-haired neighbor says they'll just be a moment while turning to the kitchen sink, and Skelly agrees to wait. The neighbor opens a kitchen cabinet, taking out a box of instant coffee, likely as a thank you gift for the frying pan. A special jar of coffee beans is taken out, reserved only for special days. Shake, shake. The snake-haired neighbor happily shakes their head, their face momentarily splitting into two joyful visages. The neighbor kindly offers Skelly 2 packets of instant coffee. Pour. As the neighbor prepares the drinks, Skelly glances at a framed picture and asks about the demon in the photo. The photo shows the neighbor happily posing in a field of sunflowers with another green-haired snake-like person wearing a straw hat. Trickle. Stirring the coffee, the neighbor notes that the person in the photo is really lazy. Clink, clink, clink. Skelly awkwardly agrees as his neighbor finishes stirring the coffee. Reach. The neighbor hands the warm mug to Skelly, who accepts it with a word of thanks. Sitting down, Skelly wonders aloud if the coffee is bitter, while his neighbor decides to turn on the TV to break the silence. Beep! Skelly's expression brightens in surprise as he discovers the coffee is sweet, while his neighbor turns on the TV thinking it's too quiet. Turn. As a show called Animal Kingdom comes on, the neighbor explains they moved out to be closer to college, and Skelly mentions his own house is a little far. The neighbor curiously asks how far Skelly's home is, and he nonchalantly replies that it's on top of a cliff. Skelly thinks for a moment before asking what his neighbor's father is like. The neighbor says their father sometimes falls asleep in the middle of a conversation, as Skelly has a brief, startled memory of someone dozing off. Sipping their drinks, Skelly morbidly remarks that his grandmother used to do the same thing right before she passed away. Skelly has a dark thought, wondering if the neighbor's father might already be dead without them realizing, imagining his ghost waving goodbye. The neighbor looks at Skelly and asks if his parents were older when he was born. Shake, shake. Back at the agency, the single-eyed demon calls out to Yeji, who's on the couch, while Goyle shakes a bottle. Click! The single-eyed demon lights the end of a thin stick with a purple lighter. The single-eyed demon blows out the flame, warning Yeji that if he gets interested in that job again, she'll pull his hair out for real. Lying on the couch, a pensive Yeji listens to her warning. The single-eyed demon expertly uses the smoldering stick to curl her eyelash. On the TV, a goblin-like host from Animal Kingdom cheerfully says hello. Back at the neighbor's apartment, Skelly recognizes the TV host, prompting his neighbor to ask if she teaches at his school. The host, Charlie, encourages a small blue creature to stay healthy as the neighbor explains she's a researcher of mutant animals. Skelly laughs, impressed that she manages to both study and protect the animals she works with. The neighbor adds that the host conducts her research very slowly, so as not to disrupt the ecosystem. On screen, Charlie makes a plea for donations to help her group's conservation efforts. At the agency, Yeji asks the single-eyed demon to curl his eyelashes too, but she dismisses the host as untrustworthy, prompting Yeji to ask why. Quiver. The single-eyed demon brings a purple makeup puff to a nervous Yeji's face, telling him not to close his eyes and to look at them. Sparkle with his makeup finished, Yeji agrees with his partner's assessment, as she and Goyle admire their handiwork. The trio laughs together as a caption reveals their less-than-stellar pasts as a delinquent, an illegal salon operator, and a pyramid scheme member. A new segment begins, showing the mugshot of a pink, three-eyed alien in a business suit. Skelly and his neighbor watch as the news report about the alien appears on screen. Skelly exclaims that it's about time, while his neighbor observes that the alien disguised himself as an employee, explaining why he was so hard to catch. Tremble. Skelly's mug quivers in his hands as he realizes with dawning horror that the demon on the news is the same one from that morning. As the caffeine hits, the neighbor's snake-like hair writhes, and they comment on how interesting such cases are, noting the demon blended in so well. Spring, the neighbor suddenly perks up, and a stunned Skelly can only manage a quiet, "Oh, okay." Clack. Skelly abruptly leaves the apartment, his glowing green eye filled with a new resolve. Walking down the hallway, Skelly comes across a blue-skinned person with long white hair and pointed ears. At the agency, the single-eyed demon muses that criminals don't have a specific look. Yeji remarks that even ordinary demons will lie when cornered, and the single-eyed demon agrees, saying they are only one step away from being criminals too. Poke! In a brief scene, the cat doctor playfully pokes a baby's cheek, announcing their intention to start studying them. Yeji smirks, reflecting that it all begins with ordinary demons deceiving others to get what they want. Skelly puts on a friendly smile as he looks at the blue-skinned person in the hallway. Skelly stands opposite the blue-skinned person, the two facing each other in the quiet hall. A full-body shot shows the blue-skinned person standing casually with their hands in their hoodie pockets. The blue-skinned person turns, offering Skelly a small, friendly wave. The blue-skinned person advises Skelly to keep his distance from his new friend, warning that she sounds like trouble, but Skelly just laughs it off. Skelly pulls the hood of his green jacket over his head, a thoughtful expression on his face. Rattle. The blue-skinned person asks Skelly about someone named Edward, then complains that the apartment is too small. Sniff. The blue-skinned person sniffs the air, their expression turning serious and contemplative. The blue-skinned person notes a strange smell in the apartment, but a clueless Skelly asks, "Really?" Plop. As Skelly sets down a box of candy, his friend complains about his inability to use basic magic for taste and smell. Chomp. The blue-skinned person asks what happened as Skelly casually eats a candy cigarette. Snap. Skelly nonchalantly reveals that his dad took most of his mana away. Puff. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the blue-skinned person cautiously asks how much mana was taken. Sigh. Skelly refuses to discuss it further, telling his friend to just forget about it. Creak. Believing they've located the source of the strange smell, the blue-skinned person reaches for a door. Erg. The blue-skinned person recoils from the overwhelming odor, exclaiming that it smells terrible. After finding a basin full of baby clothes, the blue-skinned person asks Skelly if he got a pet. Skelly begs his friend not to tell Edward, fearing his dad will find out, while the blue-skinned person asks what kind of animal it is. The blue-skinned person remembers that Skelly's dad hates animals, and is stunned to learn he got a cat. Trying to be reassuring, the blue-skinned person suggests Skelly's father was probably just worried about him. A flashback shows a younger, sad-looking version of the blue-skinned person gently holding a small green bird. The flashback focuses on the still, lifeless bird cupped in the younger person's hands. Glance. The blue-skinned person gives Skelly a knowing, sympathetic look. A quick cut shows Nabby playfully holding a whisker, much to the cat doctor's weary bemusement. The blue-skinned person sensibly suggests Skelly shouldn't have gotten a pet, as the apartment is a poor environment for one. Crunch. Skelly clarifies that his dad's opposition wasn't out of concern, but because he genuinely hates animals. The blue-skinned person scolds Skelly for getting a pet without the means to care for it, but Skelly insists he's providing for the kitten's basic needs. Chomp. Having had enough, the blue-skinned person bites Skelly's candy cigarette in half, telling him to stop. Snap! Skelly's eyes flash red as he angrily tells his companion to quit nagging him. Sigh. Defeated, the blue-skinned person gives in and says, fine. Skelly asks why they are evaluating his apartment after only being there 10 minutes, causing the nervous blue-skinned person to sweat. Chirp. The scene shifts to Cafe the One, where cake and drinks sit on a table. Brush. A dog-like woman fusses over her hair, while Fernando, the green-skinned demon, says her name. Sigh. Fernando's blonde, green-skinned companion sighs, lamenting her bad luck for the day. Glance. The group looks out the window, noting that, by pure coincidence, Reverend Adam has sat down on a nearby bench. The pointy-eared demon, Reverend Adam, sits peacefully on a park bench reading a book. Back inside, Fernando and the dog-like woman enjoy their drinks. Fernando points in surprise, recognizing the winged demon, Lily, floating outside the window. Reverend Adam smiles softly, his gaze lowered. Adam looks up, his piercing yellow eyes seeming to look directly at the viewer. Lily stands before Adam, her expression unreadable. Stare. A close-up shows Lily's intense blue eye, focused on him. FWIP. Adam greets her warmly, calling her Sister Lily. Smile. Lily approaches Adam's bench, remarking that it's been a while, and he asks if she's out for a walk. Lily sits down and immediately rests her head on Adam's shoulder, her eyes closed. Crack. The blonde demoness inside the cafe shatters her teacup in shock. The dog-like woman offers to pay for the cup, but Fernando urgently points out the hot tea spilling on the blonde demoness's hand. Outside, Lily breathes softly, asleep on Adam's shoulder, as the shocked blonde demoness inside can only say, "What?" Crack! The teacup shatters again as her companions cry out her name in alarm. Raise. The blonde demoness recoils in pain as her friends rush to help. Adam calmly explains that Lily is used to this kind of pain, both in her heart and her body, shocking the onlookers. Adam thinks to himself that Lily has apparently drunk herself into oblivion once again. Snore. As Lily sleeps soundly on his shoulder, Adam prays to the demon god for mercy on the alcoholic. Murmur. Fernando and the dog-like woman watch intently as Adam leans close to the sleeping Lily. The dog-like woman exclaims in shock that he's whispering something in her ear. Whisper. Adam leans in and begins reciting from the gospel on alcohol. Slam! Inside the cafe, Fernando's green hand angrily slams a fork onto the table. Quiver. Fernando trembles, now certain that Reverend Adam is confessing his love to the sleeping Lily. The anxious dog-like woman recalls that Lily also had something to do with a past incident. Crying, Fernando explains he couldn't be sure before because he only saw their silhouettes. With renewed conviction, Fernando feels certain about what he's witnessing. Fernando imagines Adam feeding Lily while quoting scripture, concluding they are the perfect couple. Turning away, Fernando is now convinced he is hearing a love confession. Thou shalt not drink. As Lily sleeps on his shoulder, Adam repeats his command with a sinister smile. Adam's glowing yellow eye glares intensely, filled with menacing intent. Lily's eyes snap wide open, her bright blue irises showing pure shock and alarm. Back at the apartment, the blue-skinned person dismisses Skelly's offer to help with the laundry, so Skelly promises to research it and take care of it himself. FWIP. The blue-skinned person turns away, deciding to wash the clothes with the door closed. The blue-skinned person grins, explaining to a confused Skelly that they don't want the awful smell leaking out. As Skelly ponders, his friend enters the bathroom, recoiling from the terrible smell. Slam! The door shuts, and the blue-skinned person peeks out, telling Skelly not to open it, to which he agrees. Raise. Inside the bathroom, the blue-skinned person raises their hand toward the closed door. A glowing blue light emanates from their hand as they touch the door, preparing to cast a spell. A glowing blue magic circle appears, identified as a portal, a form of high-level magic that requires immense mana. Person thinks about how only powerful demons like dragons can use such magic. Pop two tiny adorable mouse-like creatures in a maid and butler uniform emerge from the glowing portal. FSSHH. As the portal closes, the blue-skinned person asks the mice if they remember their task, to secretly do the housework. Squeak. The mice cheer that they must quietly disappear afterward, and their summoner confirms this, pinching their nose against the lingering stench. Skelly looks at a photo, lamenting that his friend seems to hate his living situation and resolving to get better tea for his first guest. A quick thought bubble shows Adam and Lily asking, "What about us?" Splash. Inside the bathroom, the blue-skinned person shushes the mice, who are complaining about the filth while splashing around, warning they will be caught. Startled, the blue-skinned person and the two mice freeze in the middle of their chaotic cleaning. The blue-skinned person tries to calm the mice down, but they just splash more enthusiastically. Flail. The blue-skinned person struggles to contain the two soapy mice, as Skelly calls from outside that he'll be right back. Toss. The blue-skinned person drops the mice, who immediately dash for the door. The blue-skinned person shouts, "Enough!" as the two giggling mice begin poking at the bathroom door. Turn. After being reprimanded, the two mice obediently get to work cleaning the sink and mopping the floor. Finding a hair on the floor, the blue-skinned person wonders where it came from, since skeletons are hairless. The blue-skinned person's sharp blue eye examines the single strand of hair with curiosity. Sniff. A tiny, chibi version of the blue-skinned person cautiously sniffs the mysterious hair. Sniff. The chibi version sniffs again, their expression turning from curiosity to realization. Grab. The blue-skinned person picks up a book from a small shelf. Opening the book, they're surprised to find a photo of a fluffy white cat, wondering who still reads physical books. The blue-skinned person pauses thoughtfully, staring down at the open book. Looking at the photo again, they confirm that the creature is a white cat. Open. The blue-skinned person finds a photo of a white cat inside the book, surprised that people still use them. The blue-skinned person thoughtfully considers the book in their hands. Looking at the picture, the blue-skinned person identifies the animal as a white cat. Holding a small card, the blue-skinned person deduces the hair is from an animal, and the picture might be a bonus item from the book. The blue-skinned person thoughtfully examines the small white card they found. Scamper. The helpful mice bring their summoner, the empty treat wrapper, and a tiny bib they found. Realizing the mice have destroyed the evidence, the blue-skinned person praises their speed as the two helpers sparkle, asking for pets. Pat. The blue-skinned person gently pats the white mouse, who melts with happiness. Pat. Kneeling down, the blue-skinned person pats both mice, deciding to just ask them what's going on. While petting the happily squeaking gray mouse, the blue-skinned person smiles, noting their love for praise but asking them to be quieter. Squeak. As the sound of tape rips from the door, the blue-skinned person shushes the panicking mice, who insist they aren't the ones making the noise. In a stark, monochrome moment, the weary blue-skinned person presents the two small, formally dressed magical helpers. Clatter. In a hurry, the blue-skinned person shoves a box aside and grabs one of the squeaking mice. Huff. Skelly's friend looks exhausted, as Skelly, holding the torn tape, complains about his broken door, thinking the chain lock is now pointless. Skelly returns to a sparkling, clean room and asks his exhausted, panting friend how much cleaning they did, receiving a simple, "Welcome back." At the stove, Skelly looks at a container of what appears to be black coffee or tea, pondering the black hair his friend found earlier. Clink. His friend explains they thought someone had broken in, but Skelly dismisses it, saying it must belong to his friend with black hair. Stirring their drink, the blue-skinned person clarifies that the friend with black hair is Lily, prompting Skelly to ask what she's like. A flashback shows a flustered Reverend Adam sitting on the ground, looking distressed. Brush. The flashback continues as Lily, the winged demoness, floats above Adam, looking shocked. "How dare you try to brainwash me?" Lily furiously accuses Adam, declaring his actions unfair. Spring Adam leaps up defensively, insisting he was just reading the Bible when she approached him. A chibi Lily recoils, complaining that his scripture reading felt like some kind of creepy spell. Still hovering over Adam, she whines that the words are now stuck in her head too. Shout, "What are you talking about?" Adam yells back, utterly confused by her accusations. Holler Lily triumphantly throws her arms in the air, shouting the phrase that's now stuck in her head, "Thou shalt not drink." Adam's expression shifts as he processes her words, a look of realization dawning on his face. Impressed with himself, Adam smirks, privately pleased by how effective his chant turned out to be. Lily glares up at the sky, her face a mask of gritted teeth and stunned fury. Pow! A chibi Lily delivers a decisive kick to Adam's face, yelling, "Take that." Dash, leaving a dazed Adam behind, Lily flees while declaring him worse than an angel. The flashback ends with a blurred shot of Lily leaping away from the top of a building. Back in the present, the blue-skinned person holds their mug and thinks to themselves that Lily is also freakishly strong. They tell Skelly that while Lily can be nonsensical, she's a good friend, as a crossed-out teacup reminds the viewer of the cafe incident. Skelly silently muses that his friend probably doesn't know what succubi look like, having never shown interest in other species. The blue-skinned person pulls out their phone, thinking they might have a picture of Lily. Burst. Just then, Lily herself bursts through the doorway, frantically yelling Skelly's name and proclaiming she's been brainwashed. Holding his candy cigarette, Skelly nonchalantly gestures towards the frantic newcomer and tells his stunned friend, "That's her." The scene shifts back to Cafe the One, where Fernando thinks to himself that he really did see him there. Looking out the window at Reverend Adam's silhouette, Fernando is now sure of who he saw. Meanwhile, Adam touches his cheek with a blush, realizing with some surprise that he's bleeding. He casually licks the blood from the corner of his mouth. Slapped back inside, the blonde demoness slaps her own face, mortified at the thought of being rejected. The dog-like woman passionately argues that confessing isn't about rejection, but about getting an answer. She continues her heartfelt speech, trying to encourage her friend. Spring! Having made up his mind, Fernando suddenly pushes himself up from the table. He turns to his friends and announces that he needs to leave this place. A close-up shows the blonde demoness's profile, still processing the situation. Fernando explains that he doesn't want to risk it and would rather just go somewhere he can't see Adam. The dog-like woman cheerfully suggests a place, adding that a building conveniently blocks the view of the park. The dog-like woman repeats her suggestion about the building that blocks the park view. Fernando and the dog-like woman head toward the sunlit exit of the cafe. A mock magazine cover features Skelly and Nabby, with headlines about a reverend, cat parenting, and the new popular smoke candy. Crunch. Back at the apartment, Lily bites into a candy cigarette as the blue-skinned person calmly agrees with her. Yes, something like that. Gulp. Lily, now drawn in a cute chibi style, asks if the blue-skinned person is Skelly's brother, to which Skelly vaguely replies, well, not really. The blue-skinned person internally remarks that the two must be very close, considering Lily just ripped the door open without knocking. Ding! Skelly asks Lily for confirmation that they're closer even than he is with his dad. Lily explains she practiced fixing doors at home just for this and asks for a screwdriver, while Skelly admits he doesn't know where it is. Lily asks to stay the night since she's fixing the door, which Skelly allows, but his blue-skinned friend erupts, calling it indecent. The blue-skinned person scolds Skelly to stop eating candy, but Skelly just looks confused. Flinch Lily calls the scolding old-fashioned, and Skelly agrees that his friend sounds like an old man. Clatter. Annoyed, the blue-skinned person realizes the screwdriver isn't in the drawer, while Lily mutters that it's their fault anyway. Clack. The blue-skinned person closes the drawer, deciding it won't hurt to leave Lily alone for a bit. As the blue-skinned person watches, Lily opens a different drawer, revealing various small trinkets and dolls. A wide, eerie grin spreads across Lily's face as she turns around, having found what she was looking for. Tremble. Inside the drawer, the two mice tremble with fear as one clutches a small pink object. Lily triumphantly holds up a tiny pink screwdriver for a surprised Skelly and an exasperated blue-skinned person to see. The blue-skinned person looks completely flustered by the chaotic turn of events. The scene shifts to the exterior of the Petopia Veterinary Clinic. Smack. A cheerful baby is gently placed on a weight scale inside the clinic. FWIP. A gray cat doctor and his human assistant review the baby's chart, and the assistant giggles. The chart shows the baby's weight has decreased slightly, and the assistant resolves to check if Skelly is feeding them enough milk. As the baby squirms, the assistant suggests a true retreat, but the cat doctor firmly denies the request with a simple no. Thud! The baby face plants onto the examination table, while the cat doctor wonders aloud if they prefer raw food. Grab a hand firmly grasps the baby's onesie as a voice declares an end to the hypothesizing. Back at the apartment, Lily proudly announces the door is fixed, and Skelly praises her speed as she declares she's ready for some booze. As Lily walks by, she insists she isn't tired, and Skelly comments on how good it is that the door is fixed. Gulp. Lily downs the entire contents of a small blue container as the blue-skinned person watches nervously. Kia Lily squeals with delight before her expression suddenly becomes one of grim determination. Flop. Suddenly, Lily collapses face first onto the floor, completely out cold. Reach. The blue-skinned person calmly approaches Skelly from behind, holding a small dark object to his neck. Pest! Skelly cries out in pain as he's zapped with blue electricity, while the blue-skinned person smirks sadistically. The blue-skinned person effortlessly picks up the limp, unconscious form of Skelly. Holding Skelly, the blue-skinned person muses that their little helpers proved useful after all. Flash! They open a glowing blue portal and tell their helpers to go on ahead. Erg. The two mice, looking thoroughly terrified, help each other out of the drawer, with one remarking on how scary that was. The blue-skinned person stands before the glowing portal, holding the unconscious Skelly. Shoom. As the mice are pulled into the portal, one worries about the toll opening so many gates must take on their summoner. The blue-skinned person smiles, reassuring them that with a day's rest, they can open another gate home. Shoom. The maid mouse tells the butler mouse to stop bothering their master and get in, causing him to yelp as he's pulled through. FSSHH. With a single touch, the blue-skinned person begins to close the swirling magical portal. Carrying Skelly bridal style, the blue-skinned person declares that they should leave now too. Turn. Holding the unconscious skeleton, the blue-skinned person turns to look at Lily's passed-out form. The portal begins to drag Lily's feet into its glowing depths. Foosh! The portal disappears in a bright flash of light. Cradling Skelly, the blue-skinned person says again that it's time for them to leave. The blue-skinned person holds Skelly, looking down at the empty space where the portal and Lily just were. Lily is once again shown being pulled feet first into the bright blue portal. The magical gateway closes with a sudden burst of energy. The last remnants of the blue portal's light fade away from the apartment floor. Stagger. On the other side, a dizzy Lily stumbles out from the portal's destination point. A hiccup-dazed Lily lets out a small hiccup, looking thoroughly confused. The blue-skinned person, still holding Skelly, looks toward a distant mansion and notes they've landed far from the villa. Cradling the unconscious skeleton, the blue-skinned person gazes down at his still form. They realize they must have drawn the magic circle incorrectly, as it's been a long time since they opened a gate here. A gentle smile appears on their face as they reminisce about carrying Skelly to bed, thinking how nice it feels. They sweetly promise to read Skelly a bedtime story when they get back, just for old time's sake. Glow. A bright blue light suddenly emanates from a device held by a now standing Lily. With a triumphant grin, Lily holds up the glowing device and shouts, "Found ya!" leaving the blue-skinned person to ask in shock, "The succubus?" The blue-skinned person looks away anxiously as Lily, wondering about Skelly, chugs the contents of the small container with a gulp. Crash! The blue-skinned person lies defeated on the ground as Lily stands over them, holding the unconscious Skelly. Looking down at Skelly's skull, the blue-skinned person decides it doesn't matter, and they'll just leave the passed-out Lily behind. Now awake again, a winged Lily flaps and wonders why she keeps blacking out, while the blue-skinned person asks why she keeps waking up. Erg. As Lily grabs the blue-skinned person's shoulder while they carry Skelly, the person says they are too old to be her friend, and Lily retorts they must be much older than Skelly. Lily angrily confronts the blue-skinned person, asking why they suddenly brought them here and abandoned her. Gazing toward a distant villa, the blue-skinned person explains that since Skelly has collapsed, they are taking him to the nearest family estate for treatment. Lily gasps in shock, exclaiming she had no idea Skelly was suffering from a disease. Lily calls the person's actions rude, but they retort that it's not as rude as a guest getting drunk at a friend's home. Holding the container, Lily asks if the person only acts nice when Skelly is around to see it. The blue-skinned person looks away silently, still holding Skelly's skull tenderly. Clink. Lily holds up the empty bottle, lamenting that with her mana depleted, she can't even make it disappear. The blue-skinned person admits to being exhausted, and Lily cheekily declares she'll just sleep over at the villa on the mountain. The blue-skinned person questions who gave her permission, but Lily taps her head and smugly reminds them that Skelly already said she could. Lily laughs triumphantly at the annoyed reaction of the blue-skinned person, who is still holding Skelly. The scene shifts to a vet's office, where the cat doctor observes the baby in a cage, certain they know its species even if it isn't a cat. The cat doctor prepares to feed the baby some pumpkin, explaining that it's safe for any animal with legs. The doctor explains their test. If the baby rejects the pumpkin, they can rule out pig, while noting the singing pumpkins are nearly cooked. Stab A thermometer is plunged into one of the screaming pumpkin creatures, which glows brightly from within. Chop. As the baby watches, the cat doctor slices the cooked pumpkin creature, which lets out a pained Ari. The cat doctor offers a piece of the cooked pumpkin to the baby, who cautiously sniffs the food. As the baby takes a bite, the doctor excitedly concludes They must be a pig for showing interest in the food. Pwah! The baby spits the food out, smacking the doctor in the face, who then concludes the baby is not an omnivorous pig after all. Reach. The baby reaches a tiny hand towards the piece of food that fell on the table. Chew, chew. Ignoring the food, the baby gnaws on the corner of the cat doctor's yellow clipboard instead. With a twitch of their tail, the delighted cat doctor looks on, pondering what the baby could be. Returning to the confrontation, Lily and the blue-skinned person arrive at the villa, with the latter refusing to answer any questions. The blue-skinned person coldly informs Lily that she won't need to help Skelly because the two of them will never meet again. The blue-skinned person turns their back on Lily, carrying Skelly toward the building. They glance back over their shoulder with a faint, knowing smile. Looking down at the unconscious Skelly, the blue-skinned person's expression softens into a gentle smile. A smug grin spreads across the blue-skinned person's face as they cradle Skelly. Lily looks on in disbelief, questioning if they are really taking Skelly back to the home he ran from, certain he wouldn't have agreed. Lily raises the container and laughs, confidently stating she knows Skelly's feelings about home, prompting the blue-skinned person to laugh as well. The person condescendingly asks how long she's known Skelly, reasoning it must be less than a year since his recent freedom. They reveal that, in contrast, they have watched over Skelly for more than 200 years. The person lists Skelly's recent failings: consuming low-quality food, living in a dirty environment, and having a chaotic, undisciplined lifestyle. The blue-skinned person declares Skelly's situation is terrible and requires immediate family care, as Lily spins the container in thought. Annoyed, Lily admits she needs more alcohol and confesses that she too once thought Skelly couldn't live alone. A vision of a well-dressed, confident Skelly with glowing red eyes appears, calmly smoking. Lily argues that Skelly changed within a year, becoming an adaptable adult, not a pet, to be kept trapped at home forever. Dripping a substance onto Skelly's skull, the blue-skinned person calls Lily's words foolish. They stare intently at Lily, stating that Skelly's circumstances are completely different from those of a demon. They explain that Skelly is meant to be served and aided by others, not to stand on his own, as a figure is shown being held up by a multitude of hands. The blue-skinned person suddenly yells that Skelly would never enjoy that, then pauses with a look of dawning realization. Glare. Their expression hardens as they glare at Lily, accusingly realizing she is the one who led Skelly astray. Ha! Lily breathes out, watching the person's sudden outburst with an unnerving calm. With a look of utter disgust, the blue-skinned person admits they don't like Skelly associating with low-class demons like her. Lily simply gazes up at the sky, seemingly lost in thought. Her eyes suddenly fly open in shock, as if the insult has just registered. Smile. The blue-skinned person thinks that while skeletons aren't a concern, the ingredients are what's important for a resurrection demon, telling their own heart to quit beating so fast. A shocked Lily appears, holding the small blue container and questioning the blue-skinned person. Arg! Skelly groans as his body begins to rise, seemingly lifted by the blue-skinned person's magic. Holding Skelly, the blue-skinned person looks back with a look of slight apprehension. A close-up reveals the blue-skinned person's determined and focused expression. Suddenly, they are struck by a bolt of their own magic, crying out in pain as they drop Skelly. Faint, the blue-skinned person collapses as their spirit appears to leave their body. With glowing eyes, Lily leans over the unconscious blue-skinned person, her expression intense. Lily declares that what the person did was dangerous. Thwack! Lily forcefully strikes the unconscious person with the container she's holding. The blue-skinned person is sent falling backward from the force of Lily's blow. Pow! The strike connects, and the blue-skinned person groans as they stumble and fall to the ground. Crash holding Skelly, Lily accuses the fallen figure of overreacting to the hit, as a dark, cloaked person appears behind her. Tremble. The weakened blue-skinned person realizes they zapped themselves and that their polymorphed body is weak, as Lily accuses them of lying about the medicine. Cradling Skelly, Lily announces they're leaving and scolds the person for kidnapping him. Spring. In a burst of anger, the blue-skinned person pushes themselves up from the ground. Halt. A small, winged creature appears, stopping the blue-skinned person in their tracks as Lily looks back. Lily cautiously steps forward, placing Skelly's unconscious form on the ground before the weakened kidnapper. Reach! The blue-skinned person asks what's happening as Lily grabs them, comically yelling that they are a married man and this is the problem with succubi. Lily remarks that the person sounds like an old demon, who then avoids her gaze and weakly threatens future retaliation. Lily scoffs at the threat, pointing out how easily they fell, but the blue-skinned person insists it wasn't a mere push while lamenting their weakened state. Bottom? The blue-skinned person clutches their chest, worrying about what will happen if their mana runs out completely. Bottom. Their eyes are squeezed shut in pain as their heart continues to pound. The person's hand begins to transform, sprouting dark reptilian scales and claws. Lily smiles confidently, holding Skelly's skull, and tells the transforming figure to move. With their now clawed hand, the person again warns Lily to move aside. Lily defiantly pushes the transformed hand away from Skelly. With a determined look, Lily shoves the clawed hand away. Ack! Lily is violently thrown backward, losing her grip on Skelly. Lying on the ground, Lily angrily demands to know why she was suddenly pushed. Lily watches with a stunned, comical expression as the transformation intensifies. The transformation is complete, revealing a magnificent and terrifying blue dragon. Roar! The dragon lets out a deafening roar that shakes Lily and the still unconscious Skelly. Roar! The massive blue dragon looms over a nearby building, letting out another powerful roar. Whoa! As the dragon flies away with the two mice in its claws, Lily stares in disbelief, realizing her kidnapper was a dragon all along. Bam! In a bizarre display of strength, Lily executes a perfect high kick, shattering a large rock. Flinch! The dragon's eye widens slightly, as if startled by the sound. Crumble, crunch. Backing away in surprise, the dragon accidentally crashes into a stone monument. Seizing the opportunity, Lily grabs Skelly and makes a run for it. With gritted teeth and fierce determination, Lily flees with Skelly in her arms. FWIP. Lily throws her hand forward, manipulating two glowing rocks with her magic. Whir! Lying exhausted on the ground, her spirit floating beside her, Lily realizes she shouldn't expend all her mana. Swoosh! Her energy apparently returning, Lily looks back with a questioning expression. Lying on her back, Lily stares upward with wide, startled eyes. A massive, glowing blue magic circle materializes, showing the silhouette of the dragon's master. Glow. Lily gazes up in awe at the intricate and powerful magic circle hovering in the sky. FSSHH. Cuddling Skelly, Lily thinks to herself that she's now used up all the mana she siphoned from the dragon. Lily looks up towards a floating balcony, seemingly her destination. Through a keyhole, the two teary-eyed mice desperately call out to their sir, pleading for him to open his eyes. Drip, drip. As a liquid falls from his white hair, a voice exclaims with relief that he's awake. Sniffle. The blue-skinned person lies unconscious on the red carpet, while the two mice cry over him. The small, red-skinned mouse frantically declares she will call for a doctor. Lying on the floor, the blue-skinned person weakly tells her not to bother. Now standing, the blue-skinned person looks down as the two mice reach up toward him pleadingly. He glances back, his face hidden by his long white hair, revealing a single, glowing blue eye. Chomp. In the vet's office, the cat doctor cheerfully remarks on the baby's green poop, while his assistant eats a bowl of greens. The assistant ponders if the baby's green poop is from indigestion, bile, or simply passing food's color like a snail, as the baby coos. The annoyed assistant begs the cat doctor to stop talking about it, but he feigns ignorance as she gestures angrily toward the baby's soiled diaper. Huff. Elsewhere, a muscular demon with black hair and a tail lies exhausted on the floor after a workout. Ding! He sits up, startled by a notification from his phone. A text from Club Habanera offers Adam free service for reactivating his membership since they haven't seen him in a year. Looking troubled, the bandaged man named Adam murmurs, "Dear me." Back at the villa, the bandaged blue-skinned person sleeps soundly in bed, with the two mice dozing on and beside him. Roar! In a flashback, a terrified Lily holds Skelly and screams that it's all his fault. The massive blue dragon lets out a deafening roar into the night sky. Roar. As the dragon lands near the estate, he worries that he could have accidentally stepped on the young master. In a chibi-style recollection, Lily exclaims, "Whoa!" as she flees from the dragon's giant claws while carrying Skelly. Holding Skelly, Lily has a shocked realization, exclaiming that her kidnapper was a dragon all along. The scene returns to the present, showing the bandaged, blue-skinned person sleeping peacefully with the two mice. Tap. At his office, the cat doctor works late at his computer as the baby sits in a nearby cage. The baby sleeps in its crib, a single tear rolling down its cheek. Slurp. The cat doctor chugs a large cup of churu coffee, salmon blend with extra caffeine. Step. The doctor triumphantly announces he's finished as his assistant walks up behind him. The assistant stops, her face contorted in absolute horror. Crash, seeing the empty coffee cup, she furiously scolds the cat for drinking the whole thing, knocking him over as he begs for it back. Yow! Awakened by the fight, the baby lets out a powerful open-mouthed scream. Shatter! The force of the baby's cry shatters the windows of the entire building. The scene shifts inside a grand room, focusing on a large, shattered window. The view pans across the room to an old-fashioned, glowing telephone on a nightstand. In the quiet aftermath, Lily sits by the bed where Skelly now lies sleeping. Looking disheveled, Skelly sits up and tiredly thinks he needs to close the curtains. He turns his head and notices Lily sitting quietly beside him. Surprised to see her, Skelly asks, "Lily?" Lily asks if she isn't fit to be his friend, and a baffled Skelly confirms she is, calling it a random question. Dazed, Lily thinks back on the dragon's accusation that she was a bad influence on Skelly. Skelly looks around with a grimace and explains that they are in his butler's villa. Lily tilts her head in confusion as Skelly confirms the demon from earlier is the butler's son, though he's unsure why he was brought here. Walking to a dresser, Skelly reminisces that the butler's son used to visit and play when he was a child. Clatter. He opens a drawer, revealing a journal and a case, and adds that the son's older sister came too. As Lily reacts with surprise to the news of a sister, the two mice pop up, telling her not to bother Skelly. Clack! Skelly takes out a box, explaining that his childhood friend even showed him how to hide things like this. As Skelly places a pair of prop skeletal feet into the box, Lily asks how long it's been since he last saw him. FWIP. 30 years, Skelly replies, casually lighting a cigarette. Skelly looks over at Lily, who brightly replies, "Nope," to an unstated question. Tap. Lily proudly states she hasn't had any liquor all night, and Skelly remarks that her sobriety is unusual. Waving his hand dismissively, Skelly tells her there should be wine in the kitchen. As Skelly walks by, Lily asks if he has anything stronger. Pausing at the door, Skelly says he isn't sure but will go take a look around for her. Creak. As the door swings open, Skelly says he'll probably find a bottle of whiskey the caretaker hid. He crumbles to the floor, prompting a concerned Lily to ask. Lily cheerfully grabs his face, reassuring him it's not a big deal since he's a skeleton. Lily insists she could have reassembled him, but as his ribcage and bones tumble to the floor, Skelly asks if she really thinks that would work. He explains that with his current mana, he'd barely be able to reattach a couple of fingers. Skelly's green eyes glow with grim determination. He leans back coolly, having recomposed himself. Lily asks if his weakness is due to low mana and offers her own, but Skelly admits he's not sure of the reason. He explains that he's a resurrection-type demon, leading Lily to ask if she should take him to her dad if he ever breaks apart. Skelly doubts his father would help just because she asked, and worries he wouldn't be allowed to leave afterward. Lily looks on with concern as Skelly glumly states he'd be locked up forever if he ever went back. Puff. He lies down, resting his head on his arms. Lily imagines herself as a valiant knight on horseback coming to save him, but he dryly reminds her this isn't an Arpeggia's G. Continuing her fantasy, Lily pictures him as a princess in a dragon's castle, suddenly realizing something must have happened between Skelly and his kidnapper. Lily asks Skelly for the villa's address so she can call a horse, leaving him to wonder, a horse? An elf-eared man with black hair, dressed in a black priest-like outfit appears. The man arrives, and as Lily carries Skelly toward him, she asks if he has a car. He coolly replies that he borrowed it from the church. Skelly defiantly says, "I don't wanna," to which the man calmly replies that they won't be leaving then. Elsewhere, a large, purple, sweating creature, identified as the caretaker, screams in shock. The caretaker continues to scream, demanding to know what happened. The elf-eared man stares in disbelief at an empty lot, asking where the building went. Clack! The scene shifts to the baby, now named Nobby, sleeping peacefully in a pink carrier. A pair of skeletal hands gently lifts the baby. Skelly now holds the sleeping baby, as Lily and the elf-eared man look on. Snap! Lily takes a photo, calling the sight cute, while the man points out Nabby is wearing dog clothes. The cat doctor holds up a diaper, explaining Nabby's clothes got soiled because Skelly forgot to put one on, even though it was in the report. The doctor fumes that he should have underlined that part, while Lily thinks he looks just like her after a night of heavy drinking. Tapped by the doctor, Skelly mutters, "Right. The diaper," as Lily checks her phone. The cat doctor lets out a frustrated cry, then quickly changes his mind and says they'll just go. While the elf-eared man notes Skelly looks tired, Lily thinks he seems more angry. Behind them, the cat doctor quivers in fear. The cat doctor announces he's going back to the church, flipping his shop sign from open to closed. The elf-eared man taps Lily's phone, reminding her not to be late for volunteer work tomorrow. Skelly groans that he's exhausted and doesn't want to deal with old demons, earning a disapproving look from the man for his disrespect. Skelly scoffs that it's never going to happen, but he and the baby are carried along as Lily and the man walk away. Step Lily walks toward an intersection as a car speeds by. Tug. She is suddenly pulled back from the street. The elf-eared man holds her arm, telling her to take it easy since she hasn't had any alcohol, as Skelly looks on, confused. Brighton. The man blushes, impressed by his own chant's effectiveness. Lily glares at her phone, where a group chat with Lulu shows a picture of a crying Nabby, with a message questioning Lily's fashion sense. Lily smiles and tells Skelly she'll stop by tomorrow to pick up Nabby, and he gratefully agrees. Beep. At an office, a green-skinned woman in a suit retrieves a document from a printer. Rip. She tears the paper in half and lets out a furious scream. Her enraged, screaming face is shown in a distorted, mirrored view. She collapses to the floor, still screaming in frustration. Looking at the torn paper, she fumes. How dare he send me this worthless crap again? Her phone begins to ring with an unidentified caller. Elsewhere, a man with purple eyes and piercings answers his phone, saying no. You get it. A white-haired Cyclops also appears to be on the same call. At the same time, a blonde man with a purple shirt answers the call, noting that the person he's speaking to has an accent again. The blonde man with curlers speculates that a lady is trying to pressure them, but the white-haired Cyclops dismisses the idea, having answered the calls for years. Russell. The blonde man asks who else would be calling, and the Cyclops explains that their ground team gets regular clients, like demons needing PI work. The Cyclops continues his explanation as a small, tailed figure with a purple cap adjusts his head wrap in a mirror. Both the Cyclops and the blonde man admit they aren't getting it as a phone rings. Clack. A bird-masked man in a jacket appears behind them, telling them to answer the phone. The bird-masked man scolds them for doing beauty care simultaneously, but the blonde man protests he doesn't have time to wait. The man with purple eyes from earlier is shown holding his phone in a dark room. The bird-masked man takes the call, and the voice on the other end startles everyone. He whispers that he wants to see them now, prompting the Cyclops to ask where, while another figure asks if it's the club. A voice from the sky confirms the person is at Habanera. Lean. Elsewhere, an elderly, green-skinned demon with glasses looks down with a sorrowful expression. Skelly enters a bedroom where a green jacket with a ram skull is draped over a chair. He's surprised the apartment is so clean, having assumed he and Lily had a major fight. Plop. Skelly gently places Nabby, who is now wearing a bee costume, on the bed. Nabby lies on the bed beside a white mug. Clink. Skelly picks up the mug, which advertises a moving company. In a chibi view, Skelly quickly walks to the kitchen sink in just 3 steps. Beep. While Nabby sleeps, Skelly looks at his phone, pondering if Nabby is still a baby and how different they are from normal cats. Skelly thinks they're already so big, imagining Nabby is the size of 4 kittens combined. He has a panicked vision of a giant, raging Nabby attacking him as a violent beast, while a smaller version of Nabby cowers in fear. A Tetris-style fail screen represents Skelly's momentary failure in thinking. Tap. Skelly returns to reality and begins browsing a job site on his laptop. Smoking a cigarette, Skelly sighs, realizing he has no certifications and very few job options. He grimly reflects on the importance of certified skills and the difficulty of making money. Skelly looks over from his desk to see Nabby sleeping peacefully on the bed. Nabby wakes up and looks at Skelly, who is looking back. Skelly leans against the bed, watching the baby thoughtfully. Wriggle. Nabby wriggles on the bed and reaches a tiny hand towards Skelly. Poke. Skelly gently pokes the baby's stomach, wondering if he should have chosen a more profitable major in college. Tickle. Asking Navi for an opinion, Skelly tickles the baby's hand with his finger bone. Nabby responds with a fit of happy giggles. As the baby giggles, Skelly lies down beside him, admitting that Nabby is cute in his own way. Skelly observes Nabby's dull teeth and recalls that cats need to eat meat for them to grow properly. Nabby playfully slaps Skelly's face, babbling, "Da." Skelly muses that Nabby's teeth will need time to grow in, but will have to be sharp later as the baby begins sucking on his finger. Skelly looks down, flustered, as Nabby continues to suck on his finger. The baby finds comfort in the substitute pacifier, while another image shows a baby happily using a real one. Snatch Skelly suddenly yanks his hand away from the dazed baby. Trembling, Skelly stares in horror at his hand, shouting that the baby bit his finger off. He continues to shake in disbelief, calling the baby a little brute. Tap. He frantically tries to reattach his glowing fingertip, but panics when it won't work. Skelly glares angrily as his fingertip dissolves, while Nabby quivers nearby. Nabby innocently grabs his own feet, oblivious to Skelly's distress. Pull! Skelly pulls the baby toward him as the narration credits his guaranteed appearance. The scene shifts, showing the back of a figure with black, curly hair and large, curled horns. An announcement formally presents His Majesty, King Mikkel, before a snowy, palatial backdrop. The scene focuses on snowy stone tiles. A man with horns, identified as King Mikkel, stands tall and stoic in a formal military uniform and a long, red-lined cape. King Mikhail stands alone on a high stone platform amidst falling snow. King Mikhail looks on with a grave and regal expression. Wow! A powerful gust of wind whips through a blurry, cold setting. The scene dissolves into a blurry, chaotic vision of hands reaching up in a frenzy. King Mikhail's face is shown, his red eyes filled with a deep, weary sadness. In a quick flashback, Nabby is shown contentedly sucking on Skelly's shoulder. King Mikhail looks on with a stoic and somber expression, his large, curled horns prominent. Elsewhere, the elf-eared man from the church smiles gently, his hands clasped together. The scene shows the Cyclops and her companions, as a green-skinned woman working on a laptop thinks about the contrast between small and big. A long, white-haired man with blue skin wishes everyone a great year and an enjoyable festival while looking at his reflection. FWIP, he adjusts his collar, revealing faint scratch marks on his neck. The blue-skinned man straightens his tie, instructing someone to give the same message if asked. An antique radio announces the end of King Mikhail's speech, and a small mouse-like creature responds with an enthusiastic, "Yes, sir." The scene focuses on Skelly's hand, his fingertip still detached and floating nearby. Grab. He gently takes hold of Nabby's foot. Raise. Skelly carefully places a pamphlet reading, "The Demon God Loves You," on the squirming baby. Worried about germs, Skelly mutters that he doesn't want Nabby eating any bacteria. He gently scolds the baby, who has started sucking on his own feet. The Cyclops complains about a difficult acquaintance who just sits around eating, worried about being recognized. Meanwhile, candy spiders crawl out of a jar as the blonde man urges her not to be so harsh. A green, mantis-like bartender tells the group their friend is in another room and he needs to close the spider candy lid. The mantis demands payment from the Cyclops and Rhino Man, saying he's only housing their friend as a favor, but the Cyclops frets they can't contact their boss. After the mantis calls her the prettiest demon, the Cyclops preens. Nearby, the blonde man opens a door and calls out, "Hey!" Whoa! The blonde man finds a figure in a hooded robe on the bed and asks if they're becoming a magician, but the figure retorts they wouldn't be living like this if they were. The Cyclops and her friends approach, asking the robed figure why they haven't called, but the figure can only stammer, "I." Teary, crying under their hood, the robed figure thinks in despair, "I'm screwed." The Rhino Man laughs cruelly, mocking the figure for going bankrupt and having to return home. Creak. In a grand, dark hall, the blue-skinned man enters and announces to his master that he has returned. Clack. He approaches a silhouetted figure with glowing red eyes, who asks what happened with Skelly. The blue-skinned man recoils in fear as the shadowy master presses for information about the young master. His blue eyes widen in terror. He explains that he didn't believe Skelly was in any real danger. Continuing his report, he states he decided it was best not to make contact yet. The man explains that the photo must have been taken when they were tired, but his master seated in the red chair questions if that's really the case. The silhouetted master dismisses the concern with a simple, "I'm fine." His glowing red eye glares intensely as he violently grabs the blue-skinned man's shirt. The master demands to know how Bella is, reminding the man that he claimed he went to see his family. Stuttering nervously, the blue-skinned man reports that Isabel is doing well. He breaks into a cold sweat, his face a mask of pure terror. Shatterback at the club, the Cyclops' drink glass falls and breaks on the floor. The group sweats nervously while talking to the hooded figure. The white-haired Cyclops anxiously asks if the hooded figure brought a dangerous carnivore from the human world. She leans in closer, whispering fearfully if the creature is a human. FWIP. The robed figure shoots up, electrified with panic, and insists they're sure of it. Droop. The figure's hood falls as they slump in defeat, while the blonde man worries about a photo of the creature going viral online. The bird-nosed man looks on with a concerned expression. The blonde man complains about the hooded figure's terrible drawing skills, pointing to a crude doodle of a fat baby. He then reveals a photo on his phone of the actual creature, a very normal-looking baby. The photo shows Nobi, looking slightly grumpy, back in his room. Skelly lies in bed and taps his phone. Russell. He quietly gets out of bed and is relieved to see Nabi is still sleeping soundly in a bassinet. Rise. Skelly sits up, ready to start the day. He quietly makes his way out of the bedroom. Thinking he will make breakfast with the pumpkin from the vet, Skelly opens the fridge, only to find two demonic-looking pumpkins shivering and muttering at him. Tremble. The demonic pumpkin glares from the fridge, demanding to know if Skelly has lost his mind. Splash! The second pumpkin spits out a mouthful of water with a series of frantic coughs. Nabi stirs slightly in his sleep, making a small noise. Skelly recalls the vet's instructions to store the pumpkins at room temperature, realizing his mistake. As Nabi looks on, Skelly notes with relief that the agitated pumpkin has finally calmed down. Squeeze Nabi hugs his stuffed rabbit tightly and babbles gay. Seeing Nabi awake in his box, Skelly wonders with slight exasperation if he's hungry already. The little pumpkin relaxes in a warm pot of water as Skelly promises to put Nabi on the floor once he's finished cooking. As Skelly turns his back, Nabi reaches out from his box. Skelly focuses on his cooking, holding a spoon as he prepares the soup. Skelly walks away, leaving Nabi sitting on the desk while his discarded rabbit toy lies on the floor. Grab. Skelly bends down and picks up the abandoned rabbit toy. Plop. He relents and places Nabi back in his box, saying he'll put him down now. Ding dong! The sound of the doorbell startles both Skelly and Nabi, who turn towards the door. FWIP Nabi suddenly hurls his stuffed rabbit into the air. Smack! The rabbit toy lands on the floor, while Nabi watches from his makeshift playpen on the desk. Nabi looks on with wide, innocent eyes. Crawl. He begins crawling across the desk toward Skelly's phone. The forgotten rabbit toy lies alone on the wooden floor. At the door, the man with green snake-like hair holds out a box of the snake's strawberries. The green-haired man gives the strawberries to Skelly, explaining he wanted to deliver them before they got too ripe. Shocked, Skelly thinks about how expensive the gift is, having just seen the price of fruit at the market. Beam. The green-haired man beams, brushing off the gesture as a simple favor. Reach. Skelly, realizing the gift is an apology, starts to hand the expensive strawberries back. Skelly reluctantly accepts the gift with thanks, and the man tells him to enjoy them. The green-haired man stands by the door, smiling at Skelly. Skelly shouts "Tea-doo" as he remembers the boiling pumpkin, and the green-haired man cheerfully wishes him luck. Wave. Skelly gives his neighbor a cool, stylized wave goodbye. The green-haired man returns the gesture with a sparkling, enthusiastic thumbs up. Skelly turns back, just in time to see Nabi climbing off the edge of the desk. Topple. Nabi loses his footing and tumbles headfirst toward the floor. A skeletal hand flashes out to catch the falling baby. Skelly strikes a triumphant pose after making the last-second save. Nabi is held safely, though upside down, in Skelly's hand. Skelly's momentum carries him backward, and he falls to the floor. Lying on his back, Skelly comforts the whimpering baby, reassuring him, "I got you." Skelly lies on the floor, holding the crying baby in his hands. The scene shows another angle of Skelly on the floor holding the crying Nabi. The view focuses on Nabi, who is wailing in Skelly's arms. Tap. Drip. Nabi taps on Skelly's skull, as a long string of drool drips down. In a flash of panic, Skelly imagines Nabi crawling out the open front door and into the street. Honk. A car horn blares, and Nabi looks over in startled surprise. Lily holds Nabi, cooing about what a smart kitty he is, before calling out to Skelly. Lily looks down in shock to find Skelly's dismembered body lying on the floor. Another man dials 911 to report his friend's corpse, while Skelly's disembodied head protests, "I'm still alive." Lily approaches Skelly's scattered pieces, who tells her she scared him before asking her to turn off the stove. Clack. Holding Nabi, Lily peers into the pot and excitedly asks if it's pumpkin soup. As Skelly's torso notes, it has completely melted. Clatter. As Skelly's torso hops toward her, Lily asks if he's missing his arms, to which he replies, no. Lily grabs Skelly's spine, as he clarifies that he does, in fact, have his neck. Swing. Lily gleefully swings Skelly's torso around like a weapon, ready for a fight. Swing. As Lily cheerfully swings Skelly's torso, he lets out a terrified scream. Lily laughs with delight while Skelly, quivering with teary eyes, begs her to stop messing around. Lily stops abruptly, her bright blue eyes wide with surprise. Looking down with a dazed expression, she simply utters, "Gah." Chirp. The scene transitions to a grand, beautiful church under a clear blue sky. The focus is on a metal plaque on a door, which reads, "Confessional." Inside, Lily bows her head solemnly and announces her intention to make a confession. She confesses that she made her friend cry with her hand, a hilarious misinterpretation of her actions. The elf-eared man, Adam, instructs a confused Lily that she must leave her alcohol outside the confessional. Creak. Leaving the room, Lily chugs her drink and complains that the confession was a waste of time. Elsewhere, an elderly green man in a wheelchair curiously asks what's inside a nearby pet carrier. An unseen speaker explains it's Skelly's cat that they care for on weekends, wondering why it cries like a baby. Clack. Peeking from a doorway, Adam remarks on the poor senses of the elderly, hurting the pride of the green man. Shout! Yell! The elderly man angrily refutes this, insisting his vision is fine and demanding to see the cat. As Lily unzips the carrier, Adam warns the man, now identified as Mr. Sundal, that the sick cat might startle him. Lily joyfully lifts Nabi out of the carrier, presenting the baby to everyone. Sundal stares in black and white confusion, utterly speechless at the sight of the baby. After a moment of shock, Sundal stammers that he got a good look, while Adam asks him for confirmation. Sundal declares the cat is fluffy and adorable, while someone off-panel cheekily asks if he means hairless. Adam and Lily coo over the cute cat, with Adam enthusiastically agreeing it really is. Bathed in a sparkling light, Nabi's confidence is visibly boosted by the compliments. In a starkly different scene, a fish-like doctor examines Skelly on a gurney, wondering why a corpse is in his office. Skelly's disembodied head desperately begs to be put back together as someone screams in the background. Flap. A larger fish doctor, with green eyes, tells his smaller colleague to stop, explaining that he has a weak spine. The two fish doctors apologize to a dismembered Skelly, admitting they've never encountered a skeleton before. The lead fish doctor thoughtfully holds a clipboard, pondering how to handle the unusual patient. One doctor instructs the other to call for help, pointing to a phone with Lily and Adam in the favorites. Skelly explains he can't call his family and pleads for them to reassemble his spine with magnets or adhesive. The doctor finds his request ridiculous and bluntly asks why he can't simply call his family for help. Skelly sighs, defeated and frustrated by the doctor's question. The scene returns to the church, where the elf-eared man, Adam, looks pensive. Tickle. Adam muses that he thought the young demon was ditching again, while Sundal tickles a happy Nabi. Pat. Lily defends Skelly's character, insisting he's not irresponsible, as Adam gently pats Nabi's head. Adam is racked with guilt, thinking he should have known about the accident, and hasn't even told the butler. He looks deeply uncomfortable, sweating nervously near Sundal's wheelchair. Lily calling his name startles Adam, who is just worrying about being seen as an unreliable demon. With a grin, Lily asks if Adam is coming with them, gesturing to herself, Nabi, and Sundal. A confused Adam asks where they're going, and Lily bluntly informs him they're headed to the hospital, calling him slow. Step. Adam nervously agrees to go after Miss Sunai arrives, but an elderly woman's voice asks if he's going somewhere. An elderly green woman named Sunai arrives early, surprising Adam as the others greet her warmly. Adam forces a smile while Lily looks on, completely bewildered by the unfolding situation. Sunai looks at Sundal holding Nabi and declares they must be identical twins, prompting Lily to correct her that Nabi is his sister. Adam leans in to tease Lily, saying it's like spot the difference and suggesting she's confused from drinking too much. Lily playfully punches the surprised Adam, asking if he just can't help himself. Blink. A close-up highlights Nabi, who is labeled as an odd creature. Holding Nabi on his lap, Sundal confidently declares to everyone, it's a cat. Sunai chides a snoring Sundal, asking what he's talking about and gushing over how cute and fluffy her doll is. Watching Sundal with Nabi, Sunai sighs, remarking that he must have really gone senile. Lily points out that Sundal and Sunai are holding different objects and asks if Sunai is also a patient. Adam asks Sune about her doll, and she explains that of course he hasn't seen it, as it usually sits on her bed. The focus shifts to the strange masked doll with blonde hair and a blue patterned dress. Sunai asks a sleeping Nabi if he's awake, explaining to Sundal that she brought keepsakes to help him remember his past. Sunai asks Sundal if he remembers the doll, which Adam recognizes as the one Sundal always sleeps with. Sundal nostalgically recalls Adam bringing it from the human world, triggering a memory of a sinister-looking Adam. Lily questions the story about a war with the human world, while Sunai looks confused, asking Sundal if she didn't just buy the doll for him recently. Adam sweats, recalling a devildom law against smuggling from the human world and panicking that the doll is illegal contraband. Adam considers reporting the smuggling, but Sundal argues with Suni that they were too poor to buy a doll, and Lily asks where he found it. Adam nervously tells himself it was long ago and should be fine. Sune points out to Adam how forgetful the old demon is, while Adam reassures himself it's fine. Sune then suggests Sundal's forgetfulness must upset Adam. Looking at Sundal, Sune dismisses the issue, stating she's not upset as it's what she expects from a dementia patient. Side by side, Nabi and the masked doll rest on Sundal's lap. Sundal insists to Sune that the cat is fluffy, but she retorts that his eyesight must be failing him. Lily remarks that she finally sees what the doll looks like, and theorizes Nabi is a mutant cat, explaining his unique appearance. Sune speculates that Nabi's kind must be common if they make dolls of them, leading Lily to suggest Nabi is a whole other breed, like a flat-faced cat. Adam amusingly thinks to himself, "You mean a Persian cat?" Snore. Nabi is shown fast asleep, drooling a little in his slumber. An unseen speaker complains about them getting a hairless cat, calling it ugly, and preferring fluffy cats. Lily firmly scolds Sune, reminding her of the anti-discrimination law, and that such comments are inappropriate, even about animals. Sune looks annoyed and taken aback by Lily's lecture. Sune asks Lily if all she did was play around at school, to which Lily quickly denies it. Taking a drink, Lily wistfully admits to herself that she wishes she could have played more. The scene shifts to a strange, cartoonish landscape showing 3 decorative pots on a series of hills. Lily playfully calls Adam a show-off as he strikes a charming, open-armed pose. Wave. Sundal's memory returns, and he excitedly exclaims that he found the doll and brought it home during the war. As Sundal basks in a memory of being praised, Sune complains to a confused Lily and Adam that she is sick of hearing that same story for centuries. Sune holds her doll, musing that being praised feels good, and decides she will keep carrying it for a few more days. Adam looks on with a pensive, serious expression. Lift. With a sly smile, Adam asks Lily if she knows which hospital Skelly is at. The group stands together, with Sundal and Sunai holding their respective babies while Adam and Lily converse. A white mousemaid announces that Master Skelly has a phone call. Vroom. Long, white limousine speeds along. A hand holds a phone to Skelly's despondent-looking head. Now reassembled in bed, Skelly tells someone on the phone he's on his way home and invites them over. On the other end of the line, Lily looks surprised by the invitation. Adam speaks animatedly to Lily, who seems to be listening intently. Adam smiles confidently, telling Lily he knows where Skelly's house is. Realizing Lily didn't hear him, Adam watches as she asks Skelly for his address over the phone. Lily is shocked at how far away the location is and realizes they will have to drive. Skelly's bony hands rest peacefully on his chest as he lies in bed. A mousemaid attends to Skelly, who continues speaking, saying, "And." Skelly's skeletal hands are crossed over the blanket covering him. With a nagging feeling, Skelly thinks to himself that he's forgetting something important. Pop. Inside the limousine, a mousemaid announces their arrival at the front gate. Beep. A mousemaid reports that they are now passing through the flower garden. Skelly looks out the window at the passing trees against a bright blue sky. Through the leaves, several bright red apples become visible on the tree branches. In a sun-dappled garden, Skelly, now with red eyes, relaxes on a lounge chair, while mousemaids attend to him. A skeletal hand holds a glossy red apple with a strange, dark void at its core. Skelly's red eyes focus intently on the mysterious apple in his hand. He brings the apple to his mouth, ready to take a bite. Chomp! Skelly bites into the strange, glossy fruit. Having eaten the apple, Skelly lies back on the lounge chair under the apple tree. The view looks up through the apple tree branches into the sky. The scene focuses on a sleeve with long, flowing fabric hinting at a flashback or memory. In a stark black and white memory, a skeletal hand holds a doll, while Skelly's red-eyed skull lies on the ground. A hand holds a broken, masked doll, its red eye glowing ominously as a black tear streaks down its face. As a hand with a colorful, glowing eye looms large, a voice bellows, "You crazy old demon!" The view shifts from a colored sky through tree branches to a stark black and white version, marking the end of the flashback. Drip. Back in the present, Skelly sits in a chair as green liquid drips from his mouth, watched by two concerned mousemaids. A menacing, silhouetted figure with glowing red eyes declares they never should have allowed Skelly to leave the house. The figure continues, stating they would make Skelly quit school if they could, but won't, as the punishment would be too severe. Glance. In the garden, a somber Skelly looks up at an apple hanging from a tree branch. A close-up shows Skelly's bony hand resting on the fabric of his red jacket. His skeletal hand reaches up towards the red apples, hanging among the leaves against a bright blue sky. The two mousemaids look up at Skelly and offer to pick an apple for him. Tap. Skelly taps his own chest, despairingly wondering what a demon without mana can possibly do. As a voice calls his name, the view focuses on Skelly's hand resting on a checkered blanket. A mousemaid asks a weary, green-eyed Skelly if he wants to rest in the flower garden, to which he tiredly asks, "What is it?" Turn. Skelly turns his head away, politely declining the offer to rest. The camera focuses on his hand again as his refusal continues from the previous panel. Skelly instructs a mousemaid to text Lily, and the maid enthusiastically agrees. A text message from Boney in a group chat instructs the recipient to bring Nabi along. Lily looks at her phone, appearing puzzled by the unexpected request. Grab. With a sudden move, Lily scoops Nabi out of Sundal's wheelchair. Lift. Lily joyfully lifts a babbling Nabi, while Adam gives a supportive thumbs up in the background. Clink. Adam announces he has the car keys and suggests they head out, which Lily and Nabi happily agree to. Sundal waves cheerfully, bidding them goodbye from his wheelchair. Sundal begins retelling his war story about the doll, prompting an exasperated Sune to sigh, "Not this again." Screech. Lily suddenly tells Adam to stop at a store for a gift, plops Nabi into his arms and hops out of the car, leaving him stunned. Pat. While patting Nabi's head, Adam wryly asks if Lily always does whatever she wants, as Nabi gurgles happily. Clunk. As Lily gets back in the car, Adam asks if she got the gift she wanted. Lily excitedly presents a box of strawberry smoke candy. Adam laughs with relief, realizing she was talking about candy all along. Lily beams, confirming that Skelly loves this particular brand of smoke candy. Adam continues to laugh nervously, still processing his relief that she was talking about candy. The view blurs past trees and a bright blue sky, indicating the car is now traveling at speed. Clank. Their car approaches a grand estate, stopping before a massive, ornate iron gate. Screech. The black car comes to a halt in front of a large building. A mousemaid informs a resting Master Skelly that they have arrived, and he calmly acknowledges her. From above, the long white limousine is seen as Skelly is carefully wheeled out on a gurney. A distressed, blue-skinned man with long white hair rushes forward, calling out for the young master. Leaning over the gurney, the man asks what happened, and Skelly sarcastically asks if it isn't obvious. The man, now appearing much older and more severe, demands to know how Skelly fractured his spine. With a weary smile, Skelly admits he fell while trying to catch his cat. The white-haired man chastises Skelly for getting hurt over a cat, but then tearfully justifies it, calling the cat a helpless baby. Skelly tells him off, but the man reminds him of his manners before Skelly huffs dismissively. Flinch. Skelly complains that the man is nagging him already, despite only being apart for a week. The white-haired man wipes away a tear, looking deeply emotional. He tearfully tells Master Skelly that every day feels like an eternity without him, to which Skelly replies with a deadpan, "Gross." Step. Another butler pushes Skelly's gurney as the white-haired man, whom Skelly calls Edward, walks alongside. Skelly suddenly requests some smoke candy, causing a shocked Edward to turn and stare in disbelief. Grr! Edward glares down with sharp teeth and glowing eyes while Skelly calmly tells him to cool it. Edward angrily lectures Skelly for requesting snacks, says he needs to mature, and demands he return home, but Skelly bluntly refuses. Erg. A furious Edward demands to know what he means by no, while Skelly retorts that he likes his apartment. Edward disparages Skelly's apartment, prompting Skelly to defensively ask if he's even seen it. Edward scoffs at the idea of a commoner's home being nice. Furious, Edward blames Skelly's accident entirely on the poor living conditions of his apartment. Becoming emotional, Edward insists the accident only happened because the small room made it impossible for Skelly to see clearly. Skelly calmly thinks to himself that the accident was simply the cat's fault, nothing more. Yo! Edward threatens to pluck the cat bald, startling the two mousemaids and Skelly flinch. With glowing red eyes, a furious Skelly warns Edward not to dare touch his cat. Skelly continues, defending the poor hairless Nabby, pointing out there's no hair to pluck and demanding Edward promise to leave him alone this instant. Turn. Edward reluctantly promises, then resignedly thinks about the new chore of cleaning up cat hair. Snore. The scene shifts to Adam driving while Lily and Nabby sleep soundly beside him. Glance. Adam takes a quick, concerned look at the sleeping Lily as he drives. Now wearing dark cloaks, Adam makes a phone call while Lily sits beside him, listening. Back in the bedroom, Skelly asks Edward if he's told his father about the accident. Edward admits he hasn't told him yet and resolves to go bring his father to the room now. Leaning over the bed, Edward calls out to Master Skelly, who wearily asks what he wants. Edward looks at Skelly with pleading eyes, beginning to make a request. Skelly smiles slightly and agrees to keep his mouth shut, earning a relieved thank you from Edward. As he leaves, Edward advises the young master to get some rest. Creak! Edward opens the door to find two mousemaids, who urgently call out to him. The maids report a phone call, but Edward dismisses it until they insist the caller sounded important. When a mousemaid clarifies the caller is their friend, Edward looks on in confusion. Skelly lies quietly in bed, looking weak and resting his skeletal hands. The scene shows a stern, red-eyed skeleton in a formal military uniform, radiating an aura of authority. Edward and the mousemaids wait nervously outside a large, imposing wooden door. Knock, knock. Edward raps on the door and calls for his master. From the darkness within, a silhouetted figure with glowing red eyes asks what he wants. Standing at the door, Edward nervously states he has something to report about Master Skelly. The journey continues as Adam drives, glancing over at Lily and Nabby, who are still asleep. A black and white illustration depicts Skelly's home life, showing him sitting among his things with Nabby. In a tender moment, Skelly holds Nabby over his shoulder while carrying his green jacket. Wah! In Learning Process, Part 1, a distraught Nabby cries beside a patient Skelly. Throw! When asked about regular feedings, a crying Navi responds by hurling his bowl of cat food. When questioned about the litter box, Nabby promptly throws that as well. Skelly despairs, wondering what to do since Nabby just throws everything he is given. In Learning Process Part 2, Nabby happily babbles while sucking on a cat-shaped toy. Skelly laughs to himself, thinking that his cat is definitely weird. Skelly watches as a drooling Nabby babbles excitedly at a laptop screen. An illustration shows a blonde-haired character with a tail, wearing a tracksuit and lying on the ground. Another character in a matching tracksuit lies beside them, drinking from a bottle. A blonde character with sparkling hair fantasizes about getting a tan, wide-shouldered. The thought trails off to sexy body as they admire their physique. They then look disheartened, wondering if they still have a long way to go. A muscular, shirtless version of the character begs for something, but their companion covers their eyes in disgust. Dressed sharply in a suit, Skelly relaxes in a chair with Nabby on his lap, exhaling red smoke. Slurp. As Skelly eats noodles that fall through his jaw, Nabby crawls toward him. First, Lily rushes in, holding Nabby frantically, telling a doctor that Nabby's balding is getting worse. Skelly wonders about cats losing hair, noting he's never seen demons shed, while a fluffy gray cat is brushed nearby. Brush. In a cute scene, the white mousemaid lovingly brushes the head of the gray mouse butler. Edward claps with delight before a giant, fluffy version of a mousemaid. Lily and Adam pose in sleek, matching black outfits, looking ready for action. A child with bright blue hair calls out, "Lily, dinner's ready!" As they reach for a doorknob, a green-skinned woman with pinkish hair smiles peacefully as she writes in her journal. A purple featureless figure announces that the ramen is ready, but the green-skinned woman, now appearing gray and agitated, looks unpleased. Wham! The green-skinned woman slams open her window, furiously demanding to know who is making a racket and cursing their lack of manners. The orange-haired woman collapses in disbelief, questioning if this really happened this afternoon. Slam! The purple figure shuts the window, scolding the startled green-skinned woman for shouting in a residential area. Hiccuping, the orange-haired woman slurs that she's a pesky demon and insists she has everything under control. A black-haired man in a priest's collar tells her to mind her business but then pauses with a thoughtful expression. Teary-eyed, the orange-haired woman is overcome with emotion and begins to cry. Her tears flow freely as she continues to weep. The black-haired man strikes a sparkling, welcoming pose. Sobbing, the orange-haired woman seems to grasp the situation. Grab. The black-haired man embraces the orange-haired woman, who declares they will help for one night because they are friends. Lift. The orange-haired woman hoists the man into the air, ready to go, as he points the way to the worship hall. Still carrying him, she mutters sympathetically, "You poor bastard." Watched by a purple figure and a white cat, the black-haired man nervously asks if they should call the police. Looking pained and sweaty, the black-haired man admits that he knows the woman. Standing before a grand door, Edward formally addresses Master Skelly, stating he has something to report. Edward grimly reports that the person is in their room and that their spine has been split in two. In the car, Adam drives on, glancing at the sleeping Lily and Nabby beside him. A Season 2 Alice in Wonderland teaser shows the main characters enjoying a whimsical tea party. Their car winds through a lush forest, heading towards a grand castle in the distance. Flap, flap, flap. A content Nabby happily flaps his little arms in the car. As Lily marvels at a high cliff, Adam reminds her not to drink and yell while visiting a friend, then seriously addresses her by name before they go in. Knock, knock. Lying in bed, Skelly longs to pet Nabby. As the knocking continues, Skelly looks to the door and calmly tells his father to come in. Lily cheerfully drinks from a bottle while holding a flapping Nabby, who gurgles happily as Adam watches. Lily hushes Nabby while declaring that adults dislike being treated like fossils. Adam assures her they don't need to be so serious. Adam insists they must mind their manners, reminding Lily that Skelly is a demon of noble birth, not an average one. A formal portrait reveals a young, red-eyed demon with dark, horned hair, dressed in an elaborate military uniform. A grander portrait shows the young horned demon seated, with the imposing red-eyed skeleton general standing beside him. The horned demon enters the room and calls out to Skelly. Skelly greets his father after a long time and asks if he's been well, to which his father flatly agrees. Lying in bed, Skelly insists to his father that he has also been doing well. Skelly's father stands over the bed, holding the edge of the white sheet. With intense red eyes, his father looks down and says it doesn't seem that way at all. Looking at his son's broken body, he demands to know what in the world happened to him. Jangle. As they get the keys, Lily marvels at the castle's immense size, but Adam calls her over for a moment. Spray. Adam douses Lily's face to cover the smell of alcohol, declaring he'd be embarrassed. Lily retorts that she isn't, but he says he is, as the spray hits a flinching Edward. Turn. Edward scoffs that he doesn't care if Skelly likes them, and refuses to welcome lowly demons, privately grumbling that he still aches from Lily's earlier attack. Stare. Lying on the pillow, Skelly firmly tells his father to look at him. His father's hand gently but firmly turns Skelly's skull to face him. His father tells him to look at him when he is talking, prompting Skelly to admit he simply fell due to a moment of bad luck. In a humorous cutaway, a Medusa-like figure is complimented on their snake hairstyle and immediately hired. Hiss. The Medusa figure weeps with joy, celebrating their lucky day as their snake hair hisses in triumph. Raise. Skelly's father's hand glows with red energy as he prepares to act. Creak. Edward quietly opens the door to the room. As Adam bows, Lily asks who the man is. Edward introduces himself as Skelly's butler. Bo Lily gives an enthusiastic greeting, which the purple-skinned figure silently judges as crude and uncultured. In a stark black and white panel, Lily looks on with a deeply nervous expression. Lily panics, wondering if he's figured it out, while Edward's narrow-eyed stare suggests he might have. Edward panics internally, realizing Lily might be the same demon he fought the other day. Hoping she hasn't told Master Skelly, Edward vows to tear out her tongue if she uses their fight to threaten him. Meanwhile, Lily worries that Edward might have told his family she beat him up, fearing they would oppose her friendship with Skelly. Reaching a silent, telepathic agreement, Lily resolves to act as friendly as possible while Edward looks on, relieved. Lift! Adam introduces Lily to Edward, explaining that the creature in the carrier is Skelly's cat, who must feel cooped up. Grab. As Lily moves to open the carrier, Adam stops her, warning that Edward is in charge of the house and wouldn't want shedding hair. Snap. Lily has an idea, shouting, "Patience, Edward," as the butler gets a similar flash of inspiration. Adam agrees it's a good call. Edward chuckles, excusing Lily's crude language due to her youth, and she laughingly agrees it would be rude to treat him like a fossil. Zip! A hand calmly unzips the top of the striped pet carrier. A close-up reveals Nabby scrunched uncomfortably inside the carrier. As Lily holds the open carrier, a gurgling Nabby is blinded by the light, drawing the attention of Adam and Edward. Edward gazes down at Nabby with a sad and weary expression. With wind whipping through his hair, Edward looks on with piercing blue eyes. A dramatic close-up focuses on Edward's intense, reptilian blue eye. Grind. Edward bares his sharp teeth in a silent snarl of frustration. Adam scolds Lily for misbehaving, but she feigns innocence while holding a content Nabby, unaware of Edward's distress. Edward's resolve hardens as he remembers the promise he made to Master Skelly. HNF. With tears welling in his oversized eyes, Nabby looks on pitifully. Wah. As Nabby begins to wail, Edward observes that its crying suggests it's just a harmless young hatchling. As Adam tries to comfort the crying Nabby, he suggests that Edward bring Master Skelly, who probably doesn't know what it really is. Edward agrees. Plop. Edward offers Nabby a rabbit-like toy, realizing that since it's a toy, he can't simply eliminate the creature. Hug. Nabby calmly embraces the toy as Adam notes his fondness for the doll. Back in the bedroom, Skelly's father inspects his son's broken, bandaged spine. He explains that Skelly's body, made from 2 sets of bones, is fragile and breaks easily. Lying helpless in bed, Skelly apologizes to his father. His father begins to speak, but Skelly weakly addresses him as master. Edward reports to Skelly's father that visitors are waiting in the sitting room and asks if he'd like to see them himself. Standing in the doorway, Skelly's father states that seeing them is his decision to make. Edward informs Skelly's father that Master Skelly has visitors and asks if he wishes to see them first, since his son cannot move. Turn. As his father starts to leave, Skelly asks him not to be hard on his visitors, calling them good demons. His father curtly agrees. Looking back from the doorway, Skelly's father repeats that the decision to see them is his alone. In the sitting room, Adam, Lily, and a toy-clutching Nabby wait nervously by a large window. While Adam worries about cat allergies and inconveniencing Edward, Lily decides they should simply show Nabby to Skelly's father. Alright, Lily agrees and zips Nabby back into his carrier. Skelly's father and Edward walk with purpose, their expressions grim. Edward reaffirms his duty, thinking he cannot hide anything from the master to whom he has sworn allegiance. Adam offers a polite hello as he and Lily meet Skelly's father, while Edward internally hopes it's the hatchling's lucky day. Skelly's father sits pensively in a large red armchair, observing his guests. Skelly's father formally addresses Adam, thanking him for his work. Adam humbly accepts the praise, inwardly beaming. Smile. Adam and Lily put on their friendliest faces for their host. With piercing red eyes, Skelly's father turns his attention to Lily and asks who she is. Lily cheerfully hops onto Adam's back, declaring she's also their friend from college. Skelly's father stares intently, stating he has never seen her face before. Flail, flail. On the floor, Nabby thrashes about as Edward watches impassively. Skelly's father gestures to the flailing baby, stating that Edward knows what that thing is. Whir. Red energy whirls around his father's outstretched hand as he prepares to act. Skelly's father states he wasn't thinking clearly, and Edward reassures him that it's all right. Edward laments that this is as far as his help can go, wishing Master Skelly was with them. An elegant black and white illustration shows a skeleton in a fancy hat and jewelry, examining a string of pearls. Now wearing the ornate hat, Skelly accepts Lily's compliment, while Adam privately thinks he looks like a specter. Adam panics, accusing the skeleton of trying to steal the ornate hat, but Skelly feigns offense at the accusation. Plop. As Adam retrieves the hat, a teary-eyed Lily asks if Master Skelly has become a thief. Skelly cheekily reasons that since they're praising the mice, he should be able to take the hat, leaving Adam stunned. Adam threatens to report Skelly to Edward, prompting the skeleton to desperately ask Lady Lily for help. Ignoring the argument, Lily instructs 2 small mice, Camem and Bert, to pack some items, while Adam asks about Nabby. Lily cheerfully announces that Skelly's dad wanted to keep Nabby, while a thought bubble wonders if the baby cried. Adam reveals the baby was calmed with a doll, lamenting their deception before resolving to go get Nabby himself. Skelly gives a cheerful okay, reminding Adam to also take his bag before he leaves. As Skelly walks away, he wonders about his father's strange behavior, since he hates animals, but then panics upon hearing a loud, wah, creak. Hearing the wail again, a panicked Skelly rushes towards a brightly lit doorway. Skelly bursts into a room to find his father and Edward looming over Nobby, who is trapped in a floating blue magical orb. In another location, Adam tells Lily they need to put the contents of a brown satchel back where they belong. Lily protests that the items belong to Skelly, but Adam corrects her, insisting they belong to Skelly's father. Adam explains that since Skelly ran away, taking the items could cause his father to drag him back. Lily casually suggests choking his dad would solve it. While Adam panics at her violent suggestion, Lily insists it always works. He nervously offers to get the car ready. Glob. A shimmering blue orb forms around Skelly's head as he anxiously wonders what's happening. Step. Skelly confronts his father, asking why he took out the royal family's garbage can, as Edward watches silently. Holding his hand out, Skelly's father explains he was worried something had happened because Nabby was crying. Snap! Holding a crying Nabby, Skelly's father snaps his fingers and sternly asks where the baby's doll is. Skelly's father's intense red eye glares down at the tearful, whimpering baby. His father nonchalantly admits he threw the doll away, stunning Skelly, who realizes that's why the baby is crying. A close-up reveals Skelly's father, now with horns visible, looking on with a serene expression. Stroking his chin, Skelly's father explains that the cat is still technically a pet of the royal family. Skelly argues that the toy was the most expensive one at the supermarket, as two small, formally dressed mice plead for him to stop. Skelly's father's hand rests near his son's as he firmly addresses him by name. If he wants, his father offers to make a new toy for the cat. Skelly agrees and says he's leaving now. Skelly's father sits alone in the grand red armchair, watching his son depart. Holding Nobby, Skelly turns back to thank his father for fixing him up. Clack! Shut! With a final sound, Skelly's father watches his son leave, his expression unreadable. Edward asks if he should bring them back, but his master calmly states there's no need. Brighton, a delighted, chibi-like Edward beams and says he will prepare his master's chamber immediately. His father asks Edward what to do about the doll, and Edward asks if he didn't see it earlier. His father recalls that the doll was an animal from the human world. In the car, Lily proudly offers Skelly a piece of candy, asking if she's a great friend, while Adam questions feeding candy to a recovering demon. Skelly scolds Adam for nagging, pointing out he came empty-handed and should be ashamed of himself. Adam drives as Skelly sits beside him in the passenger seat, gently holding the sleeping Nabby. Adam hands Skelly printed photos, saying it's better than texting, leaving Skelly to review them curiously. Looking at a brightly overexposed photo of himself, Skelly comments that it's a nice one. Skelly examines the photos more closely, suddenly noticing that his ring is missing from his hand. A small mouse in a camera-themed outfit explains the camera couldn't recognize Skelly's face, prompting Skelly to decry the speciesist software. A clear photo reveals Skelly sitting with Nabby resting contentedly on his lap. A green-haired woman laughs, admitting she couldn't find a job, but an unseen person reassures her about her many special talents. A friendly, goblin-like figure with large ears offers a cup of tea and asks if there are any other questions. Clatter. The green-haired woman laughs nervously, while admitting she was simply unable to secure a job. The goblin-like interviewer again offers the cup of tea, asking if the woman has any more questions. The photograph of Skelly and Nabby now sits in a gold-colored frame, surrounded by pink flowers. Skelly stands in a room holding a bowl of strawberries, looking over at Nabby, who is sitting on the floor. Stare. As Skelly quietly observes, Nabby turns and offers him some strawberries. Dash. Skelly wonders how Nabby could understand the word eat, just as the baby babbles and quickly crawls toward him. Skelly playfully holds a strawberry just out of reach, asking Nabby to do something cute as a reward. Chomp. Nabby playfully bites down on Skelly's offered skeletal finger. Skelly calls Nabby a pig for biting him, as a delivery person announces their arrival, while a skeleton doll and Nabby slip on a dropped strawberry. A red-skinned delivery demon hands Skelly a package, causing Skelly to stare warily. Announcing the package is from the castle, the delivery demon departs, leaving Nabby on the floor. Sweep, sweep. Elsewhere, someone sweeps a dusty path near a small, barred window. A large rabbit and a person with green tentacle-like hair chatter, while an unseen observer notes the person seems chatty. The green-haired person waves their arms wildly, remarking that someone looked young on TV. Twitch. A small snake emerges from the green-haired person's hair as they explain they are also from the countryside, where TVs didn't exist 100 years ago. An ornate, robotic-looking doll with rabbit ears stands dressed in a blue and white gown. Skelly curses his father's taste while looking at the creepy doll, as Nabi sits nearby on the floor. At the door with her dog, Lily asks if Nabi wasn't interested in the doll, but Skelly begins to correct her. Skelly explains that they absolutely hate it, remembering a scene of the doll terrorizing someone. Rattle. In a flashback, a young boy explains the doll talks when turned as a skeletal hand winds it up. Clatter. The blue-haired boy flinches as the falling doll sings a creepy tune about never being lonely. The boy worries about the expensive doll, resolving to take Nabi for a walk to calm them down instead. Turn. Seizing the opportunity, the boy decides to pack an outfit he made for a doll clothing contest. Adam, now dressed as a priest, looks nervously at his phone while speaking to the blue-haired boy. Skelly, wearing a green jacket, looks up at a building and observes that the dandelions have bloomed. Lily and her dog crouch near a dandelion, with Lily guessing it bloomed because of all the sunlight. Plop. Nabi carefully picks the dandelion and brings it close to smell it. Giggle. Lily smiles as Skelly holds a delighted Nabi up for everyone to see. Lick. As her dog licks her hand, Lily resolves to look something up in a book when she gets home. Arf. The dog barks, and Lily turns to ask her pet, Yunbi, if she needs to go poop. Lily tells Skelly she needs to go back inside and that they should go ahead. He agrees to walk slowly. Step. As Lily walks away from Skelly, she quietly muses to herself that this is normal. A boy in a sailor uniform freezes, recognizing a voice and asking if it belongs to someone named Louis. A voice from behind a closed door threatens to kick it down unless the person inside reveals their sister's weakness. Eek, a terrified Adam, insists he wouldn't go that far in his response. Point. The blue-haired boy, Louis, points an accusing finger forward. Eek, Adam again shouts that he wouldn't go as far as to do that. A pair of large hands covers Louis' face from behind. Swipe. Adam frantically denies calling Louis a tiny squirt, blaming his insecurity instead. Jump Lily intervenes, declaring "I told you so" as her dog Yunbi leaps into the fray. Bite. Yunbi chomps down on Adam's hand as Louis clings to the dog's back. Skelly texts someone named Louis asking if he's okay, while a message from Boney invites him to come over. Lily asks Adam how he was able to hear Louis' voice. Adam attempts to use his good looks to charm his way out of the situation. Pow Lily lands a punch on Adam as narration explains that succubi are immune to good looks. Lily leans over a flustered and blushing Adam, who is now on the floor. Now tied up, Adam frantically insists he was in a reformation program, not prison, while Lily tries to calm him down. Louis asks Adam if he's scared of his sister, after Adam says she claims to not be a scary demon either. A diverse group of demons, including Adam and a green-skinned goblin, pose together. A shot of their feet shows them all wearing cute slippers, with small plushies on the floor nearby. Adam shares a warm, gentle smile with the green, goblin-like creature. Louis stares ahead with a completely deadpan expression, unimpressed. Pat. Adam pats an insecure-looking Louis on the head, asking why he's staring. As Lily wonders what he was doing before, Adam smiles mischievously, beginning to tell Lily what Louis was doing. Lily lies collapsed on the floor while a demon with a long, black tail looks down at her. Adam stares in shock as a wave of electric energy crackles behind him. FWIP. A small, blue-skinned child with glasses hands Adam a clipboard, presenting him with a list of demons who are late. Cough. A person with spiky orange hair chokes and coughs violently. Adam, relieved he isn't looking at a crime scene, checks his list and notes they are missing a box of alcohol, while Lily lies collapsed. Step. Holding a clipboard, Adam takes a call as he walks forward with a serious expression. Skelly, dressed in a plaid sweater vest, stands alone at the top of a grand staircase. Lily and Adam stare with wide, concerned eyes at the scene unfolding before them. An overhead view shows Skelly and his companions walking down a red carpet through a crowd of onlookers. Holding Nabi, Skelly wonders why he's suddenly so embarrassed as the baby babbles curiously. Lift. Skelly decides to call Lily since she's taking a while, lifting his phone as Nabi watches. Skelly sweetly asks Nabi if calling Lily is a good idea. Stare. Nabi gazes up with huge, adoring eyes, a bit of drool on his chin. As a butterfly flutters by, Skelly tells Nabi he can't just call him Kitty anymore. Skelly promises to use Nabi's name more often and gently asks the baby to try and remember it. A butterfly flutters past a school building as Skelly quietly decides there's no need to rush. Clack! Elsewhere, the green goblin-like figure serves cookies to the green-haired woman, asking if her work is manageable, and she says it is. Sip! The goblin boss sips his tea and asks his new employee if she's having any difficulties. The goblin boss laughs, promising to make the green-haired woman his assistant in 3 months if she performs well. Pull. As he opens the window blinds, the goblin boss suggests his now official employee should visit her family over the weekend. Clatter. The goblin boss's expression darkens as he grips the blind cord, his eye glowing red. The boss dismisses the green-haired woman, telling her to take a break and call her brother. She thanks him gratefully. Click. After her boss leaves, the woman searches online for the Demon God nursing home. The goblin, now looking older and wearing glasses, realizes the nursing home is very close by. The older goblin decides to visit the nursing home instead of the lab, but first moves to lock his office door again. Clack! He's startled as the green-haired woman re-enters, just as he's fiddling with the blind cord. She asks if he's drawing the blinds, and he nervously agrees, claiming it's too dark in the room. With his plans foiled, the goblin decides to go to the lab and visit the nursing home later, sadly watching Skelly and Nabi through the blinds. Walking outside, Skelly holds Nabi and remarks on the warmer weather as a butterfly flutters around them. Lift. Skelly's phone rings, and he answers it while still holding Nabi. A voice on the phone formally addresses him as Master Skelly. Skelly sternly tells Edward he didn't give him his number just to be called out of boredom. Meanwhile, the two formally dressed mice rush past a person's feet, carrying small cushions. On the other end of the line, Edward gravely informs Skelly that his father has woken up. Shocked, Skelly demands to know why and tells Edward to make his father go back to sleep. A distressed Edward explains that his master had a bad dream and wants Skelly to visit the castle soon. Skelly looks down at his phone, muttering that the situation is embarrassing. Back at the gathering, Skelly stands with a dejected and gloomy expression. A sheep-headed man in a black suit steps in front of Adam, introducing himself as the group leader. Flanked by bodyguards, Skelly looks on with disdain and asks what they want. Adam approaches and asks if he is Skelly, to which the skeleton curtly confirms. Adam becomes flustered, thinking Skelly's group doesn't want to talk to him and wondering what to do. Internally, Adam admits he's not used to dealing with this type of demon, as a crowd of onlookers swoon over his good looks. A voice from the crowd murmurs in disbelief, wondering who would bring bodyguards to a college orientation. A bodyguard explains they're following his father's orders, but Skelly dismisses them, saying he'll take full responsibility. As the bodyguards leave, one mutters that Skelly is a weirdo, confirming they are his personal guards. The bodyguards agree to get permission and return later, telling Skelly to wait inside as he nods. Adam asks Skelly where they should go, and Skelly vaguely gestures, telling him, over there. Skelly peers into the distance with a confused expression, asking again where he's supposed to go. Adam points toward a small, empty space between a row of demons sitting on the floor. Adam explains they have more freshmen than usual, and it was hard to move chairs, as a targeting system highlights the vacant spot on the floor. Skelly scoffs, asking how he is expected to sit on the floor, while Adam grins smugly. Skelly stands proudly with a hand on his chest, striking a refined and dignified pose. Flutter. As a butterfly passes, Skelly takes a call while holding Nabi, a gentle look on his face. Announcing he's hanging up, Edward ends the call with Master Skelly and lowers the phone with a frustrated sigh. Sweep. Elsewhere, a brush and dustpan clean up pieces of a shattered cup from a tiled floor. The two formally dressed mice stand dutifully before a large, dark rectangular opening in the floor. A hand gently reaches for the face of a horned figure resting fitfully in bed. Rip. A skeletal hand tears open a box, revealing not cigarettes but a sparkling blue pen-like object. With glowing red eyes, the skeleton in the plaid vest puts the strange object to his lips. Skelly walks alone outside a large building, holding a small drink. He spots an empty park bench and walks towards it with a weary look. Flop. Exhausted, Skelly collapses onto the bench with the sleeping Nabi. Admitting he's tired, snore, Skelly quickly falls asleep while still cradling the baby. Hug. Louis, the blue-haired boy, desperately hugs Yunbi the dog with a grimace on his face. Adam suggests the other demons didn't mean any harm, but Louis frantically asks how they responded. Adam recalls the other demons, including a dogman and the Green Goblin, looking on with concern as a younger Skelly smoked nearby. Rise! The Green Goblin stands up, angrily questioning who is eating smoke candy in a public place. Spring, an orange-haired girl, shows Louis a phone, mentioning a celebrity he likes, trying to cheer him up. In a thought bubble, a skeleton wonders if the sunlight is responsible for something, as a nest fills its eye socket. Warm, a peaceful-looking skeleton sits with the bird's nest cozily settled in its right eye socket. Comfy. A close-up reveals a small, vinous-throated parrotbill snuggled comfortably inside the nest. A dog-headed person in a red cloak looks around in confusion. Jolt! The dog-headed person suddenly screams that they can't see out of one eye, startling Skelly, who now has the bird's nest in his own eye. Quiver! Skelly trembles, finally realizing there's a bird and a nest occupying his eye socket. The little bird in the nest has a thought of its own. Maybe it's time to lay some eggs. Still holding Nabby, Skelly sits on the bench and shivers with unease. Poke. Skelly's skeletal fingers cautiously poke the soft, round bird in his eye. Its peaceful nap disturbed, the vinous-throated parrotbill becomes very angry. Swoosh! The bird bursts from his eye, cheeping loudly, as a startled Skelly yells that it's a bird. Pulling the nest out, Skelly realizes the bird used Nabby's hair to build it, explaining the baby's messy hair. Peck. The bird furiously attacks Skelly, who yelps and wonders why it did not just nest on Nabby's head. Swoosh! The bird flies off, internally vowing to strike back. The tiny bird's fierce internal monologue continues, promising to return with all its strength and wrath. Nabby, oblivious to the drama, laughs with pure delight. Splat! The bird's revenge arrives in the form of a well-aimed dropping right on Nabby's face. Watching the bird depart, Skelly mutters, "Hasta la vista, idiots." Before pitying the now messy Nabby, the orange-haired girl smiles, remarking that Skelly has changed a lot. She recalls a time when a younger masked Skelly flinched and panicked at a tiny bird, remembering he used to be afraid of them. She notes he doesn't scare easily now, but Adam mischievously asks if she's tried scaring him lately. Looking toward a doorway, the orange-haired girl announces, "They're here." As Yonbi licks Nabby, Skelly tells Lily her theory is wrong, surrounded by his friends. The scene shifts to a grand, castle-like building on a sunny day. Knock, knock. A skeletal hand raps gently on an ornate wooden door. Peeking into a dark bedchamber, Edward quietly addresses his master, asking if he wants food. Skelly's father declines, having no appetite, so Edward tells him to ring if needed, but hesitates before asking about someone else. Skelly, he asks, as his master, the horned figure, sits up weakly in bed. Skelly's father looks down, his red eyes filled with exhaustion and sorrow. A tear of sweat rolls down Edward's face as he looks on with a worried expression. Edward's expression is one of deep concern and helplessness for his master. In a different story, a 2-year-old bluebird named Charlie contemplates his identity and comes to a realization. Charlie the bird stands on a branch, face to face with a green and yellow striped chameleon. Bob, Bob. Charlie begins performing an enthusiastic courtship dance for the unimpressed chameleon. Back in the dark castle, Skelly's weary father agrees to wait until tomorrow to see him. Back with the group, Adam asks what Skelly and Lily were talking about as Skelly cleans Nabby's face. Lily shrugs, admitting she can't remember what happened, and scoffs when Skelly suggests she read her diary. Adam mentally notes Skelly writes in his daily, then reminds Lily she walked out of the kitchen completely drunk. Tap. In a flashback, a drunken Lily drapes her arm over the Green Goblin, who recoils as he's hit by the wafting reek of alcohol. The Goblin thinks that Lily and her friends probably walk around the house with their shoes on while she laughs boisterously. Pinch. Disgusted by the smell of rotten barley, the Goblin plugs his nose as Lily cheerfully tries to lead her friends to sit down. Adam asks Lily how she can't remember their long conversation, while she recalls only a hazy moment of sobering up. In the hazy memory, Skelly asks Lily if she enjoys her barley-flavored drink, and she thinks to herself that alcohol makes difficult things easier to accept. Back in the present, Skelly finds it hard to believe Lily wasn't conscious, and she admits she didn't even realize he was drunk, much to Adam's disbelief. Tap. Skelly explains he'd never seen a drunk demon and his family doesn't drink, all while searching online for how to change diapers. Sparkle. Adam gushes over Skelly's father being a great role model, but Skelly just calls him a boring old demon as Nobby fidgets. While Adam tickles a giggling Nabby, he asks if Skelly agreed to visit his father. Skelly scoffs, saying he'd rather not see the old geezer's face. A caption describes Skelly's unusual fashion sense, a pink spring t-shirt and a long, leafy skirt, as an unbalanced spring look. Skelly angrily vows never to see the stubborn old demon again unless he breaks another bone, as Adam and Lily laugh and compliment his outfit. Meanwhile, Edward resolves to bring Skelly to the castle, even by force, believing it will help his unstable master. The two formally dressed mice proudly present a sparkling clean room to Edward. The mice boast that the room is tidy, but Edward, preoccupied, can only think of Master Skelly. Promising to pet them for one more favor, Edward sends the two sparkling mice dashing off on a mission. As a mouse places a call, Edward reluctantly decides he has no choice but to ask low-level demons for help this time. Pat? Pat? Edward takes the call while rewarding the helpful white mouse with a gentle pat on the head. The scene shifts to the elderly goblin, Mr. Sundal, who holds out a large stag beetle and asks if he needs to recycle it. A close-up shows the large stag beetle held in the goblin's hand. In a flashback, a stag beetle demon scolds Mr. Sundal for pulling his own tooth, but Sundal insists he didn't want to bother anyone over something he could handle himself. The green-haired woman arrives at the nursing home, holding a basket full of red apples. The stag beetle demon tells Mr. Sundal to wait while they get his guardian, leaving the old goblin looking confused. The scene changes to a cafeteria, where Adam sits across from Skelly and calls out his name. Adam questions why Skelly won't just go home to his father, but Skelly stares back, annoyed. Ack! As Skelly stabs a living sausage, he complains about both his food and the demon nagging him from across the table. Adam insists he only wants what's best for Skelly, who cheekily replies that if Adam really wants him to be happy, he'll hand over his sausage. Adam scolds Skelly for fighting with his father and compares him to Lily, which infuriates Skelly, who demands to know what Adam knows about his father before furiously stabbing his sausage. At a pulpit, a distressed Reverend Adam preaches about speaking with love, while internally wondering what to do and considering kidnapping. A group of small demons notes that Reverend Adam has seemed somber ever since being rejected by a certain demon. A distraught elf-eared demon realizes Adam is heartbroken and desperately wishes there was a way to help him. The goblin boss from before approaches Mr. Sundal, who asks if he needs help. The boss replies that he simply recognizes him. While Sundal wonders who this stranger is, the goblin boss calls him Goodney, mentions he knew he'd bring apples, and accepts one when Sundal offers. Sundal is confused about being called gangly, but when he asks why not, the goblin boss laughs and simply asks him to stop. Crush! The goblin boss suddenly snaps, crushing the apple in his hand with a furious expression. A group illustration depicts Adam, standing with a diverse group of his followers. Blush. A green-skinned goblin girl with brown hair blushes deeply. The goblin girl, Miss Manhwa, nervously asks Adam about their class, and he apologetically requests to postpone it. Lean. Adam leans in, sincerely apologizing to the flustered Miss Manhwa. His expression filled with genuine regret, Adam says he truly didn't want to break their important promise. As Adam walks away, Miss Manhwa notes this is the third postponement, and thinks she'd normally suspect being blown off. Teary. She tearfully dismisses her doubts, wondering who could question the purity in his honest eyes, but then hesitates. Huff huff. She has a horrifying realization. She's been using Bible study as an excuse to spend time with the Reverend. Desperate, she reaches out towards his retreating figure, wondering if a sinner like her can ever win his pure heart. Step, step, Adam walks purposefully towards his goal, flanked by a ghost and a small goblin, calling out that Skelly must attend tomorrow's dinner. With a deranged look, Adam holds up a bag, threatening to carry Skelly home in it if he has to. Snap. In a different scene, Lily calls someone a hip-hop cat while taking their picture, only to be accused of stealing a contest outfit. Adam strides forward with his two small followers, firmly insisting that Skelly must attend tomorrow's dinner. Adam intensely states Skelly must attend dinner, even if he has to carry him home in a bag. Splash. A red-skinned horned chef vigorously cooks a meal with fire, swooshing from the pan. The red-skinned, horned chef hanging from the ceiling tells a cat-eared assistant to ensure everything goes smoothly for Master Skelly's dinner. Edward asks the scampering gray mouse, K-Mem, and the white mouse, Bert, if there's any news from the devil. The mice report no word yet, causing Edward to sigh in exasperation, expressing good grief. Edward expresses frustration over someone's unreliability, noting the banquet is soon and they should have called to confirm readiness. Clap, clap as he claps his hands. Swoosh! Two figures in black suits fly through the air, startling the mice, Cayman and Bert, who cry out, "Eek!" Edward instructs them to utilize the devil as much as possible with Master Skelly. Edward gives strict orders to persuade Master Skelly to come, but if he refuses, to bring him by force, emphasizing that time is short. The black-suited figures affirm, "Yes, sir!" Edward, his long white hair tied back with a blue ribbon, stands facing away. A dark-haired figure with yellow eyes frantically exclaims they tried to stop them, then shouts, "Move!" And there's a smack before calling out, "Master Skelly." Skelly, the skeletal figure, stands with his back to the viewer, looking toward a wall. Skelly looks down, his red eyes glowing with a beam as he calls out Edward's name. Skelly stands in a room, surrounded by numerous skeletal figures lying on the floor. Edward says, Master Skelly," and "oh no," with a FSSHH sound, thinking, if Master sees this right now, just as a large FWOOSH occurs, and a dark-haired, horned demon grabs his arm. Skelly and Edward's feet flinch as Edward looks directly at Skelly. Skelly's father, a horned figure with red eyes, leans over Skelly. Skelly's father, with intense red eyes, calls out, "Skelly." Skelly's father, a horned figure with red eyes and a pained expression, begins to speak. Skelly's father holds Skelly, expressing his great disappointment as Skelly's red eyes stare. Skelly, wearing a green jacket, touches a striped blanket with his skeletal hands. The green-haired woman apologizes for someone not in their right mind, which Mr. Sundal in his wheelchair accepts, while the young goblin boy exclaims he will eat his apple himself. The young goblin boy struggles to bite his apple, confirming his mother is present, while the green-haired woman apologizes for keeping him and encourages him to go see her. The green-haired woman questions why the young goblin boy still has his fruit basket, and he explains he wanted to greet and share apples with the other patients. The goblin boss looks on. The green-haired woman expresses sympathy for the young goblin boy, imagining a daughter his age, while Mr. Sundal, with a lick, relates his own loneliness from living only with his brother. Mr. Sundal dabs his nose, remarking that the green-haired woman reminds him of his mother as she gently comforts him. Mr. Sundal smiles, expressing his happiness at knowing such a kind, elderly demon. The green-haired woman asks Adam if Skelly has arrived, then questions him about the large bag he carries, to which he cryptically replies it's for something he needs to carry. Adam, looking thoughtful, internally questions if this place is a cult, finding Mr. Sundal too good-looking to be a manager here.